Well, hello there. So, oh shit, I mean, it's final already. So yes, welcome to the stream. I'm Not Cerberus. This is a bit of a different stream to what we would normally do, because I've got several guests. Now, the sound quality may be a bit cack, because we are routing it through Discord because we are speaking with PlayStation players. So I'm Not Cerberus. I'll give a run round, so if you just say hello in the chat. I think we'll start, if you look on the, so we'll say what, I'll say the names, and they can just say hello. So we've got CS Razgriz, we've got MenacingCoyote, RagingBull, TFxReaper, OpeX-Blitz, RowanHKC, and BlackPriest14. Hello. So yes, this is a bit of a different kind of stream because we've got 8 fairly familiar faces from around the games community. None of us are CCs, but we're all fairly well known, I think. So this is kind of like our thoughts on the state of the game, how the game has progressed for the past 10 months, what we like at the moment, what we don't like at the moment, and basically what our thoughts are for the future of the game and where we'd like to see things to go. I think, is that a fair summary for it? Okay, so I'll transition to the gameplay from me, and from the main chat as well, so sod off you. I don't know, can breast milk be heated twice? Asking for a friend. Well, that's not something Warships Legends related, is it? So I think the first topic would be our thoughts on the current update. We've all had a bit of a chance to play it at the moment, so what's everyone's thoughts on it at the moment? As a whole, what do you like about it? What don't you like about it? What you think they could have done better? Things like that. There we go. I fucked that up already. There we go. There we go. Everyone should be able to hear now. There we go. Everyone should be able to speak now. Right. So yes, you were saying about the Yamato. So not strictly part of the current update, but we may as well cover that topic while we're touching on that.
Should settle things a bit more at tier 7, I think, in terms of matchmaking. I'm unhappy about the matchmaking.
With good reason, though.
Oh yeah.
Not gonna test though, if you were a battleship player or a cruiser player, yes, the matchmaking was screwed up for you, but as destroyer players, that matchmaking was probably the most fun I've had in the entire game. Because all it is just complete crap battleships at tier 7 that are sailing broadside, going in straight lines, doing everything possible to give you extremely high damages. Like, Priest got his highest damage in the Z23 via crap Yamato players. I've got my highest damage game in Lightning via crap Yamato players. So it definitely does help out with that. But at the same time, yes, it screws over the matchmaking and screws over the plays for a lot of other people.
I mean, I utterly hated Tier 7 for the past 6 weeks. Tier 7 was awful.
Yeah, the whole Yamato event absolutely devastated the tier.
But let's not be rude and call them crap or whatever. But I would just say that the main issue it wasn't so much the Yamato. It was that it was very easy to obtain the highest tier level the game provides without big experience. So a lot of new players, of course, tried it out because they were invited by Wargaming. But the consequence was that a lot of unexperienced people were playing games with experienced people who, of course, made use of that.
Yeah, the potatoes on inexperienced players who managed to get hold of Yamato were basically XP and credit pinatas. That's essentially what they were.
Yeah, they were just leaving themselves wide open. People were just rinsing it, but it did. Although it's fun to be in a DD, the rest of the Tier 7 matchmaking was boring. I mean, they got the thing where they tried to boost Tier 7, didn't they? By giving you money boosts and so forth, but they shouldn't have to do that to try and make it interesting.
No, it should be interesting to start off with.
Yeah,
I think the issue was they screwed the experienced players because the matchmaking was bad, and they screwed the new players as well because their new gaming experience in a Yamato probably wasn't the best either.
Yeah,
they couldn't handle the Yamato correctly.
But so what most Yamato users were doing was just sitting at the back of the map spamming HG, so they didn't make full use of the actual ship itself.
So, in kind of our own opinion, do you think the Yamato test was successful, or do you think it was a bit of a failure?
I think it was a failure.
I think
it was a fun for 1 week, but that would have been enough, not for like 6 weeks.
Yeah,
I think as a test, it was successful because, in a sense, that we give a lot of feedback very vocally about it, and that is a way to improve something because that's what you do a test for. I think the actual ship itself, the matchmaking and everything, did fail. But again, because it was a test, it gives them a chance to actually get legendary tier ships correct next time, hopefully.
But yeah, legendary. That's a whole different topic of fish, I think. Kettle of fish, not topic of fish.
Yeah, but this is where the Yami led to legendary tier ships. It's the whole point of it being introduced.
Yamato was introduced not because it's introduced legendary tier ships. It's because it was introduced because the community was shouting and demanding and wanting to storm the wargaming offices with pitchforks because they didn't have their precious Yamato in game.
Yeah, but I mean, it also was an introduction to what legendary tier ships would be like to a degree.
But I think
let's be honest though. Priest, you go.
Go ahead, Ron.
Well, why wasn't there tier 8 to begin with? Is what I don't really.
Well,
Once I remember starting the game up, it was talking about Yamato will come eventually. Why not just? I understand the development processes, but it seems like a bit of a weird decision to not have a top tier in when they're going to make it a year and a half later.
I think the idea was to have a legendary type tier ship, a legendary tier. In that regard, as a kind of tier 8, but they've not been very clear on how they wanted to implement it. So everyone's been confused about, tier 7 being the top, and then all of a sudden we've got, is it a tier above? Is it not? It plays with tier 7s. Is it T7? It's very confusing in that regard, and I think a lot of the times they do that. It's a bit of typical wargaming that they do get a bit complacent in terms of letting the community know what they're actually doing, because they do like to stick to the raw path and they do like to keep a lot of things secret.
But I think it makes sense if you consider where they come from. They come from PC with 10 tiers, and they said clearly they want to stick with 7 tiers on the consoles because the player base at start is lower, so they don't want to go with 10 tiers. And they said very clear they don't want to extend. So what I guessed is they introduced the legendary tier to let's say press tier 8 to tier 10 ships into that legendary, so they can make use of all the ships which exist on PC, but just they tweak them as much as they have to so they fit in that legendary chapter. And that way they're gonna make use of tier 8 to tier 10 ships of the PC.
I mean, it all would have been better if they had just done 10 tiers instead of 7.
I don't agree with that though, because I think this is going to be a pseudo tier 8 at the very least, and they're going to kind of flesh out those higher tiers. I don't know why they wouldn't if they already have most of the development done for PC. So basically what we've done is we have a game where we don't have PC tier 1 and we don't have most of PC tier 3. So they can easily just flesh it out. So it's like a 10 tier system just without those 2 low tiers, which, let's be honest, most people won't miss.
I think the other tier that missed out quite a lot was tier 9, but that's because a lot of the tier 9 ships over on PC not only didn't exist, but a lot of players don't consider the tier 9s to be fun to play because they're purely a stepping stone from the tier 8 to the tier 10s.
But again, guys, this is a matchmaking thing. If the player base is not large enough and you need to spread it over 10 tiers, you will have an issue to get your games going. And the highest priority is not to have the people queue, have a long queuing time. So that's why they keep the tiers limited unless the player base really increases.
Yeah. B-Sod says they shouldn't have given Yamato to new players. Mick the Sniper says they should have given Yamato more armor. And B-Sod also says...
One I will agree with, though, is that the Yamato could get down to a 23-second reload, I believe, with the Brawler build.
21.4.
There was no way it should have been able to do that. It should have been topped off at 30 seconds no matter what. Because that
its range was pretty bad at that stage, though, wasn't it? Wasn't it like 16?
16 to 17, I think, somewhere in there. I didn't use the Brawler build, though.
So I think we should maybe bring the Yamato discussion to a bit of a close, because we have... we have gone off a bit of a tangent.
It's gone now, isn't it?
When I heard first time from the Yamato, I expected a much stronger ship, and so what I found is it's more like a glass cannon. They had huge guns, but it's a floating citadel, and that took the fun apart from me. So I was expecting like a big tank I can brawl with, which can take a huge punch, and probably the only ship in my 9 with my 9 teammates, so they have to defend me. And I will be the anchor of the team, whatever. So that was my expectation to the Yamato, being the big legendary ship, like a carrier would be in a modern navy.
I think that is true for quite a few ships, actually. Expectation has been a big thing from the Legends community, probably since when Bismarck came. But when Bismarck announced, everyone was like, "Oh, this is going to be an Uber ship. This is going to be super. It's going to be undefeatable." And lo and behold, people got hold of it. It wasn't undefeatable. It was very easily defeatable. If you don't use it properly, you're going to get sunk.
I don't think that's a good analogy, just because Wargaming has said they're looking at fixing Bismarck.
But the analogy could be Tirpitz. Well, they fixed Tirpitz, and people still think that she's weak, but she's not. You just need to use her properly. I don't.
But the Bismarck for me still is a floating citadel. That's the first battleship I target if I can see it somewhere. If it's broadsiding, I for sure get 1 citadel at least, if not 2.
By the way, guys, Bull said he had to go off because he's having problems with his Discord. So.
Oh, okay, so we have 1 down at the moment.
Rowan.
Yeah.
Check PS messages.
Oh, I'm getting some really bad frame rate stutters here. Wow.
Are you playing without a Serb? Jeez.
Yeah, because you were too busy circle jerking out of the game.
We were trying our hardest to win the game.
Oh, did we win?
Whilst we were doing all that, I just got 174k damage with the Leander.
You're still bad.
I know, right?
Trash player.
But guys, coming back to matchmaking, for me the biggest annoyance was, I mean, the biggest fun as well, but the biggest annoyance if one team had 1 DD and the other didn't have any.
Oh
so
God,
I think
yes.
what they introduced was the new ranked, the mirrored class is what they had to do from the start. So this has been corrected now, but that was really a big issue because especially DDs make such a big difference. If you have a DD in your team and the enemy does not, and they gave a cruiser on par with a DD, but most of the cruisers weren't even radar cruisers, so there was no counter. A radar at least is a counter, but a simple cruiser is not.
Yeah, the asymmetrical matchmaking really screwed over a lot of people because I saw a couple of games where it was end up being 3 DDs versus only battleships.
Oh,
And
this
Yeah,
actually
even better, it was just 1 DD and the enemy team were 7 battleships. I love that.
this can actually
Yeah.
this can actually fairly neatly segue into another topic, matchmaking as a whole. Because well, we all know how trash the matchmaker can be a bit at times. I think we've all been victim of it.
I don't think it's too bad though. Like I think overall it's
I had a game yesterday where I was 1 DD and the rest of both, there was a DD on each team, and everyone else was a cruiser. There was no battleships, no other destroyers. It was horrible. Utter horrible.
I think it depends on the personal preferences. Today, for example, there were out of 9 people, when I started to grind the tier 4 British cruiser, there were like 5 of that ship in on each side, and there were like 7 or 8 cruisers each team, and I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, so whatever mission they set up, it can turn around the whole setup. On the one hand, I like it because it's a new challenge. On the other hand, it can be devastating if you're in the wrong, let's say, scissor, paper, stone, rock thing.
I also really dislike the challenges that the weekly havocs where you have to get torpedo hits, because that just turns into torpedo soup.
Yeah.
It's like that anyway, though. I don't think there's much of a difference. We all have our preferences and dislikes in that regard, I feel.
I mean, one thing I'm happy about is the fact that they removed the 15 million damage potential from the weekly havoc. That's something I'm happy about.
Is that
I
because
didn't mind that.
I'm a battleship
I mean,
main, so
I mean, it was a pain in the ass because it took a while to do.
Yeah, but I don't think they should make it too easy. I mean, that was something you didn't have to actually focus on a lot, because you could just sail in a battleship at a high tier and just angle yourself, and you can rack it up in no time.
At the same
I think
time, though, it
sometimes they
wasn't
make
long
things a
ago.
little too easy.
It wasn't long ago that
the
we were
current-
doing 150 Ks.
Yeah.
I mean, the current challenges in the weekly havoc, they are fairly easy, to be honest.
Totally. I've done mine already in 6 hours or whatever.
oh yeah, this updates we have it. Well, at least this week anyway.
But let's
It's
not
easy.
complain. I mean, we are the hardcore players. The usual casual player, he plays 1 hour per day, maybe. So it will take them a week when we play 6 hours.
There isn't a hard cap on any ships, Mojo. No hard cap at all.
Except in rank with DDs.
Yes.
Other than that, there's no cap.
So in general, you guys think the matchmaking's fairly balanced? Then it just depends on what your personal preference is.
I will say one thing though, is that for some reason the matchmaker loves to take one of the highest tier ship that you're in, or highest tier destroyer, and put you against another higher tier destroyer as well as a lower tier destroyer. So like I see it a lot with tier 7s, where it will end up putting a another tier 7 on the enemy team and then a tier 6 or something with them as well. And it expects you to count as both of them. Which, I mean, it is a challenge to do, but at the same time it's kind of like,
I do think that the one thing Wargaming have absolutely nailed in Legends versus PC or versus Warships Blitz would be the +1, -1 matchmaking. That's been great. As someone who's recently gone over onto PC, that matchmaker can be utterly horrible at times.
What do you guys think? I mean, I'm not sure if this is technically it's possible, but people are saying, oh, they need to consider the player's skill. So on the one hand, I can agree to that because, for example, it can happen that let's say 9 top players be put in one team, and you have 9 people who just grinded their first line. You have them in the opposite team. and that's a complete wipeout, 9-0. I'm not sure if that is fun for the new players. So how can that be sorted? I mean, I think the player base is too small. They can really consider that. But at a certain moment, I was hoping for some improvement in that regard.
I don't think skill-based matchmaking is that relevant, to be honest. Because how are people going to get better otherwise?
I get what he means, because it can be a case of some teams absolutely just walk the game, and your team collapses because you've got very new players, or you've got very unskilled players in a lot of sense because they're not used to it. I mean, it's not fun realistically in either way, because you start having these OP teams that just trash the other one, and if it matchmakes like that, but to matchmake any differently would be very difficult, because you'd have to have, I don't know, you'd have to have certain things that go on, certain things that happen.
It would make it very complicated for matchmaking if it had to consider the let's say, whatever base XP or win rate or whatever you want to take there. But maybe some factor, if the player base is large enough, should be considered. And what I mean is not to exclude new players, but to mix them on equal side. So you have, for example, 5 skilled and 4 new on each team, but not 9 skilled versus 9 new player.
I mean, we don't. For all we know, they could maybe factor into the matchmaking. I mean, we know Wargaming at the moment are very secretive about how things work. For all we know, that could be exactly how it works, and sometimes people just have bad days. That's also a possibility.
Well, no, I think they've straight up said there isn't any sort of weird matchmaking like that. It just kind of looks for class parity, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's what they said.
Yeah. Speaking of classes, how do you think the ships are balanced at the moment? Do you think?
I think the whole overall, I think it's balanced relatively well. I wouldn't
Cruisers
say.
need some love.
I mean, they are kind of strong ships in this game. Like John Bar is too strong for T7 in my opinion.
I don't think it is. I think it can be easily crippled. You just have to target the guns, and you can take out its 2 main armaments, and that's it. It's handicapped to fuck.
And you see that even some people demand stronger secondaries on the John Bart. So obviously they don't feel the John Bart is strong enough.
I think again that comes back down to there's a lot of things about secondaries, to be honest. A lot of people want stronger secondaries. I do think Jean Bart's secondaries could be better because they are fairly piddly, and that's even compared to Richelieu, which has fairly terrible secondaries anyway. Because for whatever reason, for whatever reason, they decided not to include the longer range secondaries that the French ships enjoy over on PC for whatever reason. Because the French ships have the second longest range secondaries behind the Germans.
I mean, John Bar's secondaries aren't that bad. I mean, at closer range, they do set fires a lot, and they do actually hit the target.
What I understand from Wargaming from the first year or almost first year I've been playing that now. I wasn't playing on PC before. What they do is they basically they don't adjust existing ships too much. They just bring new ships, and new ships oftentimes change the meta very much. So for example, in the beginning, some ships were dominating, while now completely different ships are dominating. And now if you take the British cruisers coming into the game, some of them with radar and all the sonar and so on, so they're like more like big destroyers. They will have a huge impact, in my opinion, to destroyer gameplay, and they will probably crush a lot of destroyers and
I've lost
and battleships in the future.
So Mick the Sniper says Jean Bart is OP. Why buff the secondaries when it has OP armor? It's just got the same armor as any other battleship, to be honest. In fact, the Jean Bart and Richelieu have actually fairly terrible armor as a general rule of thumb.
I mean, not really, because the ricochet angles are pretty good on the jump bot.
If you bow one, yes, but if you spam HE at them, they've got 30 meters side down. Which means that most AP shells will penetrate if you aim at the actual hull. Jean Bar, in my opinion, she straight up power creeps Richelieu, straight up.
Well, yeah, with the reload module on it, a reload
yeah,
or main matter reload, she basically just nullified Richelieu.
Yeah,
there's not really any reason to go over it. Use the Richelieu then.
There's zero reason at all to use Richelieu now. If you have Jean Bar, just use that. Richelieu, you may as well sell it. There's no reason at all to keep it. What do you think of, like, do you think lower tiers are pretty well? Which set of ships do you think are the most balanced? Do you think the higher tiers or the lower tiers, or do you think they're all about the same?
I'd say 4 and 5 outside of the kamikaze are fairly balanced.
I'd agree with that too. Yeah, kamikaze is just comma.
Unless
you think with the Warspite B and all those things overmatching everything.
Yeah, but you've also got the Bairn that does that as well.
But god awful.
But that's what I mean, like the BBs that can overmatch versus those that can't. It's a big disadvantage.
But I don't even think that, because like you can take the what's it called, the Normandy as an example. That thing has completely crap armor, but just the overwhelming firepower with it can make up for it. But yes, if you end up going up against somebody who's L angling, yeah, you're kind of not doing anything.
Throw enough shit at the wall, some of it'll stick. I think that's the motto.
I'm trying to think now that we're on it. Then Fuso again. Fuso's actually not half bad in general. I actually think a lot of those Tier 5 battleships are actually really good.
I think aside from Mutsu, I'm not a fan of Mutsu.
New Mexico, I never played the New Mexico, so somebody else can attest to that. But Fuso's not half bad. Mutsu's sort of is what I've heard. Queen Elizabeth has to be just right for you.
I've had some of my best battleship games in New Mexico, because the guns could be trolley. Sometimes they can deliver home runs. Other times they can just be like, nah, not to this. But yeah,
I prefer it to the Colorado.
Oh, I've had some good games in Colorado as well. She's just slow. She can do the torpedo beat dance really well. That's one thing Colorado is good at.
And getting Citadel at 14 kilometers by New Orleans.
Never had that problem before.
Really?
Yeah.
Too many times have I watched cruisers Citadel Colorados.
Yes, there's been quite a few. Yeah, I've never come across it myself. I've never had it happen to me, but I've heard people say it happened to them quite a bit. So
one of my friends in the Hipper, we were on North contesting the CCAP. He was in his Hipper and he got all 8 shells to Citadel A Colorado in one salvo. That's how fun it is.
Fun and engaging gameplay. If they're both secondaries on Jean Bart, they need to remove either one consumable or make something punishable on the ship. Well, all you need to do is knock out one of its turrets. If you knock out one of its turrets, it can't use the reload booster. And that is actually intended. Felicula confirmed that. So you're either able to double up your firepower, or you become a lame duck, effectively.
I will say, as not a consumable, but as an equipment slot, I wish they would add in like I can't remember the name of it on PC. You guys can probably attest to that better. But whichever one gives you better armament health.
Main battery mods 1.
Yeah, whichever one it is.
Yeah.
I feel like they should bring something like that in just specifically for that, so you can judge whether or not you want to have your guns knocked out or not.
Yeah, I also think they should bring in equipment that increases your torpedo reduction for your battleships or cruisers or whatever. I think that would be handy as well.
I mean, I'd hate to sound like this, but even let battleships have access to camo modules as well.
I don't
Just
know
down.
what. I don't like the fact they removed the concealment modification for battleships. I don't like that. It's one thing that's really.
Would you really use it though?
Yeah, you can use it.
Well,
Pretty good at concealment though.
I mean,
When they run into a cruiser, they're screwed.
how many people say they don't use the tag acquisition mod because it's not worth it?
I use it on selective ships, but not all the time.
I use it basically on every ship. All my
Too
cruisers, all my
expensive.
explorers.
Yeah, I use it all the time as well.
I mean, I find Bum Bum Boy 485. What a lovely name. I must admit I use tank acquisition quite a lot, but that's only because it's the only option I've got available to me. If there's more options available, then maybe consider other things. So yeah.
Well, I think one of the problems that they have with this game is that there's not as much choice as, again, for PC. As a previous PC player, you have so many more choices with module selection. Not, I guess, as much as commander selection because every commander is the same, but you do get a fair amount of selection with that, and you build accordingly to that.
Well, we can probably move on to discussion about commanders with that mention. What do people think of the commanders at the moment?
I think that dispersion commander's a bit too strong at the minute.
I
Just
think
they're the meta currently, and there's no other choice if you want to be effective.
concealment commanders are also the meta for destroyers.
Yeah.
I also think the as a lane commanders are kind of strong, well, too strong as well.
I would specifically say
cruiser
Attigo.
ones are strong, but
Attigo for sure, and then the Belfast one.
Yeah.
And then some people are saying Nelson. I haven't looked too much at Nelson, if I'm being honest.
Nelson,
I
you
don't
can
think any
build.
of the BB ones are.
Nelson, you can build really strong. Because you've got that damage reduction to battleships, you've then got the Master Mechanic, which increases your on something repair specialist. If you stack that with likes of Hyde and John Jellicoe, who's now got a buff to his repair party time consumable, you can build a really strong survival build with the Nelson commander, and you'll still get access to the accuracy perks like Marksman and Flammable Cannoneer.
But I will say too, I do think, as an example, the Attigo commander is a prime. I guess it's basically is trying to target Japanese stealth commanders because it has basically nothing good for torpedoes boats on it whatsoever, but except for the main perk, and so it's almost like they're trying to get people to use it as an inspiration so that it will take off the double concealment and keep people from having that 4.3 kilometer disgusting concealment.
Nelson needs to have strong guns because the armor is terrible. The armor is no different to any other Tier 6 battleship, to be honest. All Tier 6 battleships have really terrible armor, except Scharnhorst, who I've never ever had the pleasure of citizen.
I've done it once in the Iowa, but
Scharnhorst seems to be one exception where very few people have actually managed to citadel her.
And Omar, to answer your question, yes, Ninja's name is actually OpeX-Blitz.
Which
He's
is
one of those people.
Weird people have an O in their name.
Um,
O to start their name.
well,
doesn't it-
Coyote, you have on your name as well. You
Yeah, I know. I realised that after I said it.
This bloody idiot. Don't you also have a capital X? Isn't it OPEX? Is it? Yeah. Yes, it is. It's a capital X. Each country should have at least one commander for each ship.
My username.
So, do you think the premium commanders offer any particular benefits over your normal tech tree commanders that we have at the moment?
Oh, for sure.
The only premium commander I like is the Hyde. and the Sversky, the old ones, but I don't like the anime, and particularly I dislike the commendation system, because now you get another 6 commanders, and given how many commendations you would need, it's about I think 27 or 28 to legendary for one commander. That's ridiculous how many commanders they bring you need universals for. So in my opinion, they urgently need to adjust the system.
We need more ways of getting universal accommodations. There's just not enough right now.
Yeah.
Also, I think there needs to be a British DD commander that has twist and track, because I am in need of that.
I don't think we do. I don't think we do, because I mean, the US commanders don't get access to fragile threat. The US commanders don't have.
Nobody
that.
cares about fragile threat.
I do.
For concealment abilities, you do. It gives you an extra 2.5%.
But you're also losing health, which again, American gunboats.
I don't even think American gunboats have access to fragile threat.
They don't. None of them
No,
do.
they don't. They don't.
Which is what makes, despite the fact that Le Terrible has no smoke, it's what makes that ship more potent, at least in my opinion, than some of the US DDs, because the French commanders do have access to that skill, so you can actually get that ship's concealment down further than the US commanders.
Is there any other questions you had?
Not on commanders, unless anybody want to take a different tangent. Terrible.
Yeah, why not?
Feel free, if you guys have got anything to add as well, just feel free to butt in. All right, here's another one. We've touched on premium commanders. We seem to have thoughts on that, and then we seem to think that the premium commanders are a little bit OP. What about premium ships? How are your thoughts?
Oh, here we go. No,
Well,
I think most of them are grand.
You think most of them are grand, or
the lower tiers, they're all fairly okay.
except McCarthy?
Guys, let's be real. What we think is OP of one ship might be the thing that I guess all of us are pretty experienced in certain ships or certain classes, and that adds so much to that class. Through this combination, the ship becomes OP. But let's not mistake the few of us with the thousands of players. The average player, wargaming is, let's say, doing all this balancing for. Of course, you can always tweak, and this is the challenge of the game, to find the super duper fit and commander, and together with personal skill, you get this extra to really outperform. But that doesn't mean that the average player is able to outperform. Given, for example, the Atlanta, most of the people outperform. Me being a DD destroyer main, I'm being sunk in an Atlanta within 1 minute, so I can't perform at all. And I wouldn't say Atlanta is OP in my hands, but in one of your hands, probably it is. So I'm a bit skeptical with the word OP.
This
down to our opinions in this stream, to be honest.
Yeah. Ultimately, this is kind of what our opinions are, because we're oh god, that ship needs buried and burnt.
No, I think honestly one of the major ones that I would consider very powerful, which I hate to say this because I absolutely love it to death, but the Iwaki, that one, especially coming out originally, that thing's a monster at tier 3.
Oh,
I see
Tier 3.
I see people taking Razu Tanaka on the Iwaki, and they get 11-kilometer torpedoes, which is, in my opinion, for a tier 3 ship is just inhuman.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. 11-kilometer torpedoes for a tier 3 ship.
Yes, it is very lightly armored, and you can get nuked in it very easily, but at the same time, you can stealth torp in it, and you have smoke, and hydro, and evil. But love it to death.
Bit like the Kami. People think the Kami can be a bit OP.
I don't think the Kamikaze is OP, to be honest.
Let's all turn our attention slowly toward BlackPriest with his 272,000 game in Kamikaze. Yes,
No, not
Black
Sorry,
Priest.
I had a bad connection.
You and your 272,000 damage gaming kamikaze.
He's 277 serve.
Oh, sorry, I missed off 5,000.
I have the Cammy. I have some
Yeah,
fantastic
you
ones.
always do downgrading me, I know.
I wouldn't change the Cammy.
See, the Cammy wasn't that effective in ranked battles last season actually, because if somebody had a Farragut, the Farragut just ruined the kamikaze, because the Americans, being focused as gunboats, a lot of people use the twist and track, so you can
just hunt them down.
Yeah,
You're faster than them.
But,
exactly.
I mean, I don't want to defend the Kami, but the second ranked, it took me like, I don't know if I remember correctly, around 40 battles to get ranked 1 in the Kamikaze. So I wasn't scared of any gunboat. Thing is, with these OP ships, to be more generic, certain ships offer certain aspects to enforce a certain play style. So let's say the Iowa is and the Jean Bart is this bow tanking, reversing, accurate fit. So if somebody can aim, he can perform. The Akatsuki or the Kaguru or the Kamikaze are stealth boats. So unless you run into a plane or okay, the lower tiers don't have radar, but sonar or 3 kilometers of a battleship, you're pretty much safe. But still, there's room for errors. But if you're a skilled player, you avoid those errors, so chances are you perform much higher. And the same goes for certain cruisers like Atlanta, Boise. If you know how to work it out with steep islands and stuff, you can perform. But if you don't know about these things, you don't. So again, it comes together with the right player and the right ship. The ship per se is not so much OP.
Which then begs the question: when it comes to balancing, what do they need to focus on? Do they need to focus on the ship or the players? What aspects do they need to? Because look, Amagi. A lot of people really disagree with that nerf because it is a difficult ship to play as it is, and it seems that less skilled people will play Iowa, for instance. And the more skilled people will play Amagi. But Amagi was one that got the heavier nerfs.
It's just because so many bad people play the Iowa, and
it brought its win rate down. Yeah.
Brings everything down for it. And then you have a bunch of people that do play the Amagi. But I think, how might I say this? Iowa has a lower skill ceiling than the Amagi does, but you can also play the Iowa to a more effective degree than you can the Amagi.
Indeed.
Just because you can sit there and bow tank in the Iowa compared to the Amagi, which you have to really get all your guns on target.
But if you have a look at OpeX game style in the Iowa, he's devastating in the Iowa, and he's brawling and everything. So it depends on the player. If I sit in the Iowa, I probably sit back and do some beginner shooting, and I wouldn't do half of the damage, and vice versa in other ships. So again, how would you balance a good player against a new player? It has such a large impact. You can't balance that really. And the good player is, there's another point. We guys know each ship in and out. We know the pros and cons. We know the distance, how many kilometers the radar ranges, the sonar of each ship, and so on. How long, let's say the Atlanta was 30 seconds or 20, I don't know, but I think it's 30. But latest 30 seconds, you have like a 4-minute window where you can close into the Atlanta to 5 kilometers and torpedo it away. Without it can't do anything. So if you know all these things, of course you can perform much better than somebody who's new to the game and sits in one ship and gets to know one ship only. So how would you balance that?
The Dribblist of Men says this stream is too professional. We need more fight between us, and he also wants to know why Mr. Reaper's not kicking off.
I'm actually eating, so
He's got something in his mouth. He's a happy
To be
one.
honest, me and Raz are holding back our frustrations on how bad some of these teams have been so far.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm getting the team.
Especially on the weekends with the weekend warriors, the teams are absolutely horrendous. All they're doing is just bringing down your win rate and your stats. Basically.
Yeah, to be honest, I've been carrying Ninja all night.
I'm back up. I dropped a percentage earlier, and now I'm back up. I'm happy.
I mean, Rowan, I can show them the screenshot if.
Oh, you cut out there.
I can just show them a screenshot of you second to last on this game right here.
So going back to the discussion of skills, I mean, one way would be to make people play more. I.e., you make ships more XP to unlock, or things more XP to unlock.
I know that we're really early in the game as it is. I know how tanks did it, where you have down the line events, where it's like if you'd play these tanks, you got an extra like XP buff, kind of like what you're talking about. But I will say too, one thing that I did like was at the very beginning of the game, which all of us I'm pretty sure were here for that. You got the Yubari out of getting like a tier 6 ship in every class, something like that.
Yeah.
I think they need to promote more of that, because I think only being a one class person, because I see a lot of this on Facebook, I see a lot of this on Discord, people are only playing one class because that's all they want to do. I think you need to be able to change it up so that you can understand how other people play, how other ships play, and that way you're not saying like, oh, this ship should be more powerful than the other ones because I feel it should be. You need to have sort of a well-rounded opinion of it.
Yeah, the thing is, a lot of the ships, they play so different from each other as well. So yes, you can have general class characteristics, but there are some ships that just play completely different to other ships, even within that same class. Perfect example, cruisers. British light cruisers, compare them to the American cruiser, then compare them again to German cruisers, and then you've got the French cruisers as well. They all offer, they might all be the same class, but they all offer totally different playstyles. Man, that killed the conversation.
We were talking to very few cruiser mains here, so other than Coyote.
Oh, Baj needs to get good. Bollocks.
Coyote is a new
Charles
buff.
Martel, best cruiser in the game. Just pointing that out.
Yeah.
Hodge is better than Charles Martel, actually.
I don't know about that, Chief.
See, if you ask Kane, he'll be saying, "Oh no, it's Hipper."
I'll fuck my engines out. Bollocks. Potato is what I'm doing. Oh well, never mind. I don't mind being potato.
On that topic though, Ninja, have you beat my boys' record yet?
Oh god.
See, this is where it devolves into the arguments.
You beat my Gnazino record yet, anything?
No, not yet.
Put the dicks away, please. I don't want to get too excited. Alright, so gameplay wise, teams. How are you finding?
Do not get me started on this topic.
Ranked is going wonderfully this season, just like all the rest of them.
I mean, it's going decent. I mean,
we
Priest were playing early on, and we had like over 80% win rate, and we're already ranked 12, so I think it's
I was lucky OpeX carried us.
Ranked is... Oh, you're only at rank 12? Oh, such a shame.
Shut up, sir. I carried you. Don't talk about this.
Bullshit.
You always get carried, sir.
Yep.
No, lies. Utter lies. Solo queue and carry them potatoes. Hello, yeah, buddy, what's up? Welcome to the stream.
But seriously, guys, don't you think this ranked is just another form of campaign? Because I still feel that it's not about skill. It's just you need to play, and with a certain win rate, sooner or later, it's a mathematical logic that you will reach rank 1. You just need enough games.
You fail enough times, you win.
Win rate.
I think they need to make ranked about. I think they need to make ranked more about skill. It's mainly dependent on your team, and it's not dependent on your skill. Basically, that's what it is.
Ranked is too heavily dependent on the team. Too heavily dependent.
Yeah, exactly.
But how could that be sorted? I would love to have some sort of esports and league and whatever in the future. But how could that work out or be done?
They look at everyone's stats, and whoever's similar when they look at the stats, and they just place them up against each other or something.
Well, one thing too that I know Ninja knows as well, and I don't know anybody else here who has played World of Warships Blitz.
Yes.
But they had sort of like a elo system where you ended up, for whatever battle you did and how well you did, you got a certain amount of points. and that's stacked up and ranked.
Trophy
And
system.
so
Yeah.
And I think that would be not a half bad way to do it on this.
Because
I would love some sort of like StarCraft, like a league or something like that. I think that system is much better.
well, I quite I agree with Raz. I quite like the way Blitz does it.
Yeah, Blitz does you nice.
You get
One of the few
the called trophies. You get trophies based on where you place in your team. So if you
And then what it does, instead of just being done after you've ranked out, quote unquote, you end up hitting like a mastery level where you sit there and you constantly play until the game ends. But again, it's not 24/7 either. You have specific times you're playing as well. And so that's trying to get most people in.
You've got your different leagues. Now I think is there a way of the matchmaking on leagues? I think there is a way to do matchmaking on leagues, isn't there? It's like the league above and the league below.
No, it's this has like one, like if you like see a normal rank based one, it's like bronze, silver, gold, stuff like that, and it goes all the way up to Champion League.
And then in the Champion League, you've also above that you've got the top 100. So you get your points, you get your rewards based on where how the highest league you achieved, and then you get additional rewards based on what league you actually finish in, and then if you make it to the top 100, you get more rewards on top of that, which are usually like unique camos, unique commander skins, things like that. Stuff that might not necessarily apply in Legends, but it's like cosmetic stuff and things like that.
Most of the time, yeah.
But don't you think wargaming could encourage the let's say the esports thing much better and host some tournament and stuff like that?
I think they
would
could.
Be a long-term motivation.
But even though, like, if you watched the stream earlier today, Kane was talking about this too and saying that they don't have plans for right now. And I think as long as they don't have the population for it, they might not be as interested in it. But if they had the population for it, they'll do it. But again, Xbox, and there were really only community organized ones for tanks, and tanks has a bigger population for this.
But how much of a population do you need? Like, I used to be, I did like moderation stuff on War Thunder when it came out on PlayStation 4, and I was holding tournaments for them within a couple months of release. Like, there wasn't a big community there either.
That's the thing. Was it community tournaments rather than actual official tournaments?
Oh no, it was official. I was just the only one there. Like, I just sent the winners up to a guy. Everyone got a premium aircraft of their choice. It was all through and through.
I do believe that the King of the Seas events on PC, I think they're even actually just community events. They're not actually official things from Wargaming, the community events. But Wargaming throw the backing behind it. And arguably, I do think Legends has a bigger population than PC.
Really?
Legends hit 3 million downloads a couple months ago.
I mean, I wouldn't know about that one.
But I doubt that. If you look at the YouTube videos posted from PC, they have like 300, 400,000 viewers each. And take T-Bull, who's a famous, let's say, in parentheses, streamer. He get 5,000, 6,000 per video which he posts. I would say the PC community is much larger.
Yeah, I think PC community is much bigger as well.
Well, if you look at the numbers, if you look at how many people are often online on PC, the numbers just aren't there. The PC worldwide struggles to break around 100,000 consecutive players. It struggles on a daily basis to do that.
That's a huge number. Like, that's 100,000 is very strong for consecutive players. I wouldn't think most games get even close to that.
You'd be surprised.
Like, you go on War Thunder and you're lucky if you have over 10. So it's...
But Rowan, have a look at PS4 and this Fortnite. If you go live on PS4 stream, you find like 10 to 15 games every time, 24/7, people streaming. And Fortnite, it's 10,000 plus, just streaming 24/7. Yeah, I mean that's a huge potential, but wargaming is far away from having a large player base on Legends.
Yeah, but Fortnite's the biggest game in the world, so it's a different kettle of fish.
Yeah, but that's where you have to aim at.
The problem is that you also are putting up against the first person, or not first person, but a first-ish person shooter game against a, I guess, historical arcade game, which already has
It's a very
a low amount of people.
anything.
What was
Plus,
that?
a lot of people like the
What
aspect
is
of-
wargaming? What is World of Warships for you guys? You're saying it's a historic arcade game. For me, it's more like a bit like chess. It has a lot of strategic elements for me, and this is the part I especially like in the game. That because it's like a chessboard. It's set up the same every game. You start from the same positions, whatever. Of course, they change from map to map, but basically it's the same setup. And you develop each game in a different way because of you do different strategic moves and tasks and so on. So this is the element I like very much. I'm not so much into the history.
I mean,
Because
I'm not
in the history, you're playing a British ship next to a German and fight a German and next to the same British. So that's not about history.
It is and it isn't. You've got the historic ships that people get to play. Now, the scenarios aren't historic. People playing German, Japanese, American, British battleships next to each other. But the ships themselves are the historic part, and, you know, there is that bit behind it. I think for me, it's a very niche game in the way it is. It's not like you sort of Fortnite where it's... Those sort of games will sell a lot. They're picked up quite easily. I mean, there is some very skilled players on it. I think it's a horrible game.
It's not instant gratification.
The thing with this game being historical, is that when they announced that they were doing a collab with Azerlane and all the anime shit, a lot of people were complaining about how you would take away the historical values of the game by bringing in all this anime stuff.
It's what makes the money, though, at the end of the day. So you've got to remember, this is a free-to-play game.
It will and won't. They're trying to make money. They've got to make money to keep the game going and everything else they do. One of the things about the Azerlane stuff is we, as individuals, can turn it off. So we can...
I don't like that you can't choose the voice to go off and keep the skins, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw you asking for that. It would be nice to be able to differentiate and keep the skins and so forth, but I think that's just what they call a quality of life improvement.
The we be strong with the community.
It's not weeb, it's not Japanese. God.
It's wannabe Japanese.
It's one of them. You want this game to be able to keep going and keep doing stuff and keep adding more content. They're going to have to make money to pay people to do that. And in regards to stuff like the Azerlane stuff, it's kind of pre-set up, in a sense, from PC side of things, but also, you know, in terms of it is a ship thing, so there is a connection. It's not like just bringing in some random thing to collaborate with.
Mm.
But if they make money from it, they make money from it. I personally want them to succeed as a company, because, you know, I've had Tanks, World of Tanks console for years. It's 6 years now. I played in the beta before that, and I've had a free game all that time with updates constantly that I don't have to pay for. I spent a stupid amount of money on it, to be fair. But that's my choice. I've never been forced into spending any.
See, I can justify spending $60 on the game. Then over that, I don't justify it, but I do it anyways.
Yeah. I think that's how we all set out. We all say, right, well, if we spend what we would normally do for buy a AAA game, then we're kind of all right. I mean, I've bought AAA games and spent 80, 90, 100 quid on them, played them for half a month, and then not touched them again.
Anthem. Excuse me, sorry.
I spend what I usually would invest in women.
I should have that motto in life, because I'd never spend a penny.
I mean, for dinner, of course.
I mean, regarding what Priest was on about earlier about tournaments and esports, what I thought was maybe when clan battles do come into the game, they get all the top clans together, you know, and they just make them go up against each other for like tournaments or something. It'd be interesting and be entertaining.
Yeah. Whether or not to, if we're going to end up getting cross-platform clans too, would be something interesting. Take like some of the best players from Xbox and some of the best players from PlayStation, and just have like a duel.
I don't
guess.
think they will make
so all of us
dependent on the
except for
platforms because they want to get rid of this platform thing. They want to have one unique game. They don't want to talk about the platform you play the game on. So I don't think they will choose the platforms. They might go like Americans against Europeans or something like that, or old against youngs, but I don't think they will take the platforms.
God, EU would win that,
just make
hands down.
consoles.
I pass off as an EU person then. I don't claim America.
Yeah, maybe they take the Trump and the Brexit people against the EU people or something.
God.
And then there are the Irish people. Let's see who joins them.
Yeah, Roman's
Hey.
part of the so it's fine.
Yeah. I really upset an Irishman a couple of weeks ago.
You what?
I really upset an Irishman the other week ago. I said that I believe in Irish
Did you talk to Rowan?
No. I said I believed in Irish reunification under the British Crown.
Oh yeah, but it's not like the British tried to pawn off the 6 counties for what, like docking rights, so it's not too bad. I don't think we should open that can of worms.
Yes,
We're going into a
No,
dark,
let's get back to the topic.
yes, let's get back to topic. So we've
So we
got...
were talking about girls.
Yes.
All
Well,
right.
Serbia can't be in the conversation.
I
Funny.
think for ranked, they should have more than 1 star available to be saved on a defeat. Because it just means that divisions and other people are always fighting for a star instead of playing the game properly.
I suppose
Yeah.
that balances out though.
2 things I'd like to see with
No.
ranked. I'd like to see, even if people have ranked out or at different points in the league, be able to play in the same division. I don't think there should be a barrier.
And that's what I was saying earlier with
Agreed.
the sort of like league type thing, is that
Yeah.
there's not, you just keep going for points the entire time. You don't ever drop out. Because what if your friends are still playing ranked? You want to be able to play with them, and that's the guy.
So,
I've been away
one
all
thing-
weekend, and coming to this today, you guys are at rank 10. I'm at rank 19. I haven't even touched the fucking thing. I don't even want to play it. I don't want to play a rank, but if I did, I'm not really going to be able to rank up to division up with anyone because everyone's fucking miles ahead of it. I think that's just a barrier that shouldn't be there. I think it's a barrier for people playing together.
Yeah, and the good players, they will rank out, and after 4 weeks, you have only the moderate and weak players or new players, and they will reach rank 1 as well because the good players left already. So it's not really a challenge about skill.
Mick the Sniper, I'll come back to that point you just raised there. I'll come back to that point shortly.
I mean,
I
one thing
also-
I'd also like to point out was how when you reach rank 1, you can't play the game anymore, ranked anymore. I think they should change that to where as you can, but you don't lose any stars in the process or anything.
Oh, no,
Well, they say
you
rank
just
1 is
play it and it
irredeemable.
plays like normal standard.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You just
Or-
earn money and credits and XP. You earn credits and XP for it, and that's it. You don't
Or
get
what,
anything
or what
else.
they could do, they could say, well, what you can do, you could reset your rank and get some extra rewards. Do it that way. It's a bit like a...
No, or you keep your first rank and you get some extra rewards for playing.
Keep the rank, so you've ranked out. Keep it, but you play normal ships like the premiums. You get a bonus to your XP and your credits.
almost like a prestige. Almost like...
Yeah, like you get a 50% XP or credit bonus or whatever.
The
I
only
think
bad
that'd
part I
work
could see
better.
with that, is that if, let's say somebody ranks out and they're done, what's keeping them from platooning up with like another platoon and then throw in the matches for one of their friends that's on the enemy team?
That's not a bad suggestion.
Yeah,
I mean, it's slightly not the kind of not the point we're talking about here. Wild Mojo suggests that perhaps what we need to have is a third matchmaking key for those that are ranked out.
You don't have the player base for that.
Yeah, that wouldn't work, I think. I think you're
Don't
right.
have
The potential for abuse is quite there. If somebody is bored and he just sits around and looks his team losing because he's ranked out already, there's some room for abuse.
Because XP boosters
You could,
impact
but, I
your
mean-
free XP as well.
I just think at least let them play, even if they don't get anything. Give them a chance to play because
Yeah.
you know if you division up with someone who's ranked out, you can't play rank then. I think that's taken away from the players. That's not providing anything to the ranked. It's actually taking from the players. The other thing I think they should do is top 3. I know there's only 7 or maybe top 2. On a loss, get to keep the star rather than top 1.
Yeah.
And one star should be lost if you're the last on the winning team. So to encourage to perform in your team.
Yeah,
'cause-
I mean that worked good as well.
Too excessive, because even if you're trying your hardest, you should still get a star instead of being punished for it.
Yeah, I mean, in regards, I don't know about taking stars away, but I think definitely when it comes to you losing stars and the only top player gets it, you can have an absolute fucking shite team, and someone just manages to pip you to fucking first place, and you're sat in second, and you lose a star.
Or that
And
person,
that puts me off.
or that person being in
Or-
the premium ship.
Yeah, that's what I was about
Yes.
to bring up. Is that premium ship, somebody can just still do less than you, but still make somehow more than you.
Because
Yeah,
they've
that's a bad setup. They have that they have hidden this bonus inside the base XP. They should move it out like every flag and whatever.
yeah,
Uh,
25.
adding
by
to the
everything they
bonus.
should
We need a
have in rank.
comparable base XP
In rank,
Yeah, I mean,
all
I think
ships should be the same. They shouldn't give
in
any
every
extra.
game, in standard as well. How would you compare
it-
to each other?
In standard,
Yeah,
I
in
don't.
standard.
Premiums get a credit boost or an XP boost, fine. But in ranked, every ship
No.
should give the same sort of
Yeah.
balance. You shouldn't
But
have
even
a
in
ship
standard,
that
there
can give
shouldn't be
you
the
boost.
inbuilt bonus. It should be a separate
but-
one.
Which
In
it-
standard,
Yeah, but
it's
that's
different.
where
it should.
that's
it-
where you
In
kind of
standard,
balance
it
the
does
premiums.
matter because, like, look at what we have now. You have
Well-
to get what I think week 4 is 8 matches, top 3 in your team or top 2 in your team. Like, if you have a premium ship, it's much easier.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
But
the
how
problem
would people
is
compare their skill? The base XP is the only way you can compare skill, in my opinion.
what this needs
So
to
if
do
you mix
is
it up with some built-in premium inside the base XP and not adding like premium time, then you mess up the whole stats. So
Yeah.
my point is that needs to be moved out like premium time and added later. But the base XP is just the raw XP, and that should be comparable.
the problem is what they've done is when Legends first was in first in alpha, it was like PC where the economic benefits were fitted to the camouflage, not the ship. Now what they did was move those benefits to the ship, and that's had a side effect because Follicular and Decante didn't even realize this until it was raised in ranked battles. I think it was like the first season that the move from the camouflage to the ship itself has impacted the base XP. Nobody realized that until it was mentioned, which is not great because as you say, it skews people's opinions. I know myself and BlackPriest, we've come to clashes in the past where I've mentioned about you having some of the scoreboard pictures you posted and pointed out that if you took the 25% off, you wouldn't be in first place in that particular instance. And I think that would, if they had that base experience, so it was literally just your base experience, that would be a more truer reflection for all players
But I
across the
think
board.
it's not clear to anybody. So my assumption was wrong at that time, and everybody is having the assumption base XP is just the raw XP.
Yeah,
but it isn't.
exactly.
And so how would you compare somebody playing only premium ships to somebody playing only Tech 3 to somebody who plays a mix of it? And how much mix? So you can't compare that anymore. And that's really shit because it's, in my opinion, it's a competitive game for some of the people, if not for the most of the people. And you need to have something to compare. And the wargaming needs to find a way to make the performance comparable because that is what motivates most of the people.
And I
Well,
think
like the other day, I saw somebody that had posted their stats on one of the pages, and they had a 3,000 average XP per game. And that's great, but whenever I want to say probably at least a third of their battles are in the Iwaki, it's kind of like, oh, that's not actually that good.
there's a bigger problem. Apparently, it's just someone creating a new account, and then they tested premium time. Apparently, premium time, the XP gains you have because of that, is included in your service record average XP. Now, that's unverified. It hasn't been verified by any of the sources, but the evidence that they provided was enough to make me think that it maybe warranted further investigation. Ooh, and Takan said that's no secret. Is that just what I've just said there, or? So the average XP in your service record includes premium time. So that means that basically rules that as completely defunct.
I mean, it shouldn't be included, but you could say Wargaming is a company who needs to make money. So they could have the opinion and say, okay, it's the people's choice, but if they want to have comparable stats, they need to get premium at least. So I can somewhat understand that if they are aware of what they were doing in that respect.
When people are doing like the EPing contests of who's got the most average XP, the fact that premium time gives you a 50% buff to your XP earns, that skews the figures quite hugely.
That encourages the people to buy the premium time, and then again, I'm back to Wargaming who want to make money. Because my EPin is the biggest. I have the premium time.
Well, I do believe somebody actually managed to get a 441,000 damage game in Yamato. So I think they've got the. I think they have the crown for the biggest EP.
Damn it! I need a doctor.
It's not hard to make damage in the Yamato. I mean, with that 441k damage game, I mean, ships could have just been broadsiding him the whole game, and it would have been easy for him.
It's a combination of two
but
things.
guys, stop saying these extraordinary games. That's easy. If that was easy, we would have seen like 100 each day. I mean, that's not easy. Let's be realistic. Even if there probably was the perfect environment. Of course, you need to have the perfect environment. You need to have some stupid players in the enemy team. You need a lot of battleships. You need a lot of high HP battleships. You need to have
a combination of stupid people and good
shot
players.
first, so you survive the longest and have the most shots. So all that needs to be ideal. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a record game.
Do we think players care too much about stats though?
No, they don't care too much because it's a competitive game. What else is the aim of this game? It can't be cruising around with some ships. What was the aim? The aim is to compete with each other.
I mean,
it's like chess or whatever.
Some people do play just for fun, and some of the people that play hardcore, so it's competitive for them. So it's different for everyone in a way.
But even the fun players, if they have like 8 games in a row they lose, if they were playing for fun, they shouldn't care. But most of the people care. So most of the people don't play pure for fun. They take the fun from the competition and from wins. People like to win.
So, come back to it, something that I brought up a couple of messages ago. Let me see if I can find it. So Mick the Sniper, now he has posted his feedback in the official Discord. Well, where's his question gone? I've lost it now. Where's it gone? It was to do with the Azure Lane ships. 2 of those ships are brand new ships. But effectively a brand new ship. Well, 3 of those ships are effectively brand new ships. Nelson's was only recently released. Hood is currently exclusive to the Azure Lane package at the moment. She's going to be sold as an individual ship next week. And obviously Belfast. Do you think there's a focus in this particular instance too much on new ships, or do you think the balance is right?
Well, I think they want to promote their.
You've cut out, Raz.
And I think I think they want to promote their new ships,
Mhm.
and so that's one reason to do it. And then I also believe that as long as they're offering it at another point that you can get just the ship if you want to, I don't see a terribly big problem with it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Just, but
Can you
they're
imagine
not
the chaos?
Yeah.
Can you imagine the chaos if they released the British cruisers and there wasn't Hood or something like that as well?
Hmm.
Like, I
It's
don't
already
really see a
plain
problem.
I think the other point is that some of this stuff is for newer ships, like I suppose you can think of like the Camels, for instance. Currently, the only ships that currently have camouflage that are permanently available in the store are the Germans. Do you think maybe they just need to bring out some more variety in the form of camos so people can actually buy them?
Permanent camouflage
Yeah.
for more nations and stuff.
or at least give me more options to where I can earn them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're very reluctant with permanent camos because their whole bonus system, 90% is camouflage. They give a lot of purchasable camo. They make quick bucks, but what would you give the people then as a bonus? Now in the daily crates you have the camo and the boosters and stuff. But if you give away too much permanent stuff, you have a long-term issue.
I suppose that's an interesting flip side. Oh, sugar! It's a destroyer over there.
Coming from a money earning aspect.
That's what we thought about Commander XP, and now it's turned into a useful resource again. So like they could find some way of doing it where you could, I don't know, combine or break down a bunch of camouflages and turn them into some other type of currency or something like that, and make them worthwhile because people love stacks of hundreds that they'll never use.
For example, I could imagine we need to do something to come to another subject. I think we need to get more insignias, and they need to make an obtainable version like with the promotions. So, for example, the promotion you use the Commander XP, and the ships you use the Global XP. But what do you do with the money once you have all the ships? So they could make the insignias purchasable with money, for example. I don't know, let's say 1 or 2 million per insignia, and you buy them, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think they should give you more options, whereas you can earn insignias and commendations and stuff like that more easily. But they shouldn't make it way too easy so that everyone's maxing out the commanders. It just makes the game boring then, because they have nothing to work for when it comes to.
Well, again, the commander system is not meant to be done in a week. They're meant for you to grind it out over the course of like a month or two. For one commander, and so if you already had everything maxed out,
they said you're supposed to max out like 4 commanders per year. That's the
for free. Yeah, that's what Philly said. So Holiday Gamer asks, what are people's opinions on the fact that a Target is the same price as Alabama and Tirpitz?
They're going to keep doing this.
They don't differ between classes. They have the same price per tier level. If you go on the shop, all the tier 4 they cost the same, all the tier 5 cost the same, all the tier 6 cost the same.
Not all the tier 6 cost the same. There's 2 that don't. I think yes. I think the hood is going to cost 12,500. Looking at the bundle value. That's been provided, and I think Nelson in Indianapolis costs 12,500 as well.
I think they have 10, 12, 5, and 1,500 for 4, 5, and 6. That's the
I think they should
price.
base ship prices off the class of the ship. So like battleships cost more than
leave.
Oh no! Don't leave at all. Tikan, I am reading the chat. I'm picking out the best bits. I should go back and.
So you're saying the rest is writing rubbish?
No. I'm just pick the pill. Scroll back.
I think he did mention about the Azure Lane characters, why they chose them ships.
Yes, they took the most.
So fitting.
They took the most familiar ones for this moment in time.
I'm trying to think. There's Turbot's Bismarck, Jean Bart. I'm just looking on here. There's a lot of the ones that are Yeah, well, pretty much almost all my port is
Even
one.
though I'm not a fan of the Azalian stuff, I do like the commanders, though. They're quite useful, especially when you want to play certain classic ships.
Sorry, I've just got myself cracking at tier 3.
I suppose if they add something like that, but they make it useful to players who probably don't want to be bothered with the kind of animated stuff, but they're worthwhile collecting, then you are giving the option for both sides, people who do like it and people who don't, to utilize what they're adding to the game, and therefore you're sort of getting the value back for the game itself in that regard.
But I feel like also that some of these commanders should be available again too. Like, I know they were the Halloween ones. I didn't get any of the Halloween ones, but I would have liked to get them looking back at it.
Yeah.
And especially if like people are coming back from the game, if like they took a break or something or missed the event, then they've missed those commanders, or if they missed this event or something or don't come until after, then they're not able to get these commanders.
Should do it a bit like they do the premium ships. They bring them to the store every now and again and bring them to sale.
Yeah, they should do that.
Like Swirsky and I don't want to pronounce it because people get mad at me, but Polish Destroyer.
Yeah,
I can never say it correctly, and people yell at me. So
yeah, Mick the Sniper. I think Wargaming's hands are a bit tied when it comes to what they can provide. It's for an issue that wasn't their fault. It's nice that they even gave us a story package. They didn't have to do that, especially since it is a free-to-play game.
To Ken, if you really want to give a free tier 7, I'll take one.
This stream shouldn't be locked at 60 FPS because it's
British T7.
Because it's not being broadcast at 60 FPS. It's being broadcast at 30. I'm at 30 FPS, not 60.
Roman, what do you?
We can do 6.
Make the whole thing. Oh, no, don't give me a free ban.
Is that a new premium ship?
Also, player 3, you can actually adjust your quality settings on your side.
Mick, in regards to the disconnections and stuff, they do quite a bit of in regards to that to explain, and then they do give us free stuff. And they don't have to do that. They don't have to give us any free stuff at all. They can just say,
but
sorry.
In regards to the disconnection, sorry guys, but I think some people are really some in the recent days. Of course, there were these DDoS attacks, but people were complaining the whole year before, and oftentimes it's their ISP or their local router or their wireless network, whatever. I didn't have a single disconnect in about 10 months, and I'm sitting on a 100 Mbit fiber. So I think it's mostly a homemade problem.
Yeah, well, just going to what Minotaur was saying, he said he lost hundreds of thousands of credits from being kicked, and I've had, in the entire time playing this, 4 disconnections, maybe 5, and I've been able to jump straight back in. I've had no issues. I think it's hard to, when you've lost like that, it is fortunate, but you can individualize the free bundle stuff. You can't say, well, I always get disconnected, and then you've got Server who always stays connected. It's not an issue of the actual server.
Yeah, to Can, I agree. I think what it is, I think it's down to your own as BlackPriest said, it's down to your own ISP. I occasionally get disconnects myself, but that's because I'm not connected by wire. I'm connected wirelessly.
But you're on quite a low broadband spec anyway in that regard, where your position is. Like for me, I rarely get disconnects or anything. I'm on a very good connected area, and I have a very high connection of broadband. So
I mean, the islands are a bit difficult, like UK and Ireland.
Yeah, I've had disconnects a couple times, but most of the time it's my fault. Only once or twice.
You don't pay your monthly rent.
Oh yeah, that's definitely the problem.
Haven't fed the hamsters quite as much.
The potato I'm playing on went off.
So I think yes, I did notice I have Mark KK White in my team. This is going to be the most potentially controversial topic because I think I am going to open this can of worms.
Open the can.
Team play. How do you think teams actually work together and play together in Legends?
Work together?
They don't serve. They're all in potatoes.
Being polite.
It's a solo game,
Word
playing
out
9
there.
people solo on one side,
No, don't.
unless you're in the division.
I mean, the thing with Legends is obviously the play base is not good simply because they've never had a previous title for console before. So when you look at other games, like for example Call of Duty, you have like Call of Duty Black Ops 4.
Oh, we've cut out again.
You started, so people are familiar with it.
Could you imagine going back to the original rendition of Modern Warfare with the 10 years of experience people have in Call of Duty nowadays? It would be completely unfair. It's the same thing here. There's no real game like it on console, so it's not surprising that people aren't very good.
Plus, I mean, again, I know some people have had PC experience, and Blitz to some extent is, I guess, experience. I wouldn't consider it that much experience. But gives it another definition as well, because I've had over, I want to say, 6,000-7,000 games on PC, and I would say that's translated over just knowing ship models, knowing where to aim, knowing where to shoot, has helped out.
But that's your personal skill. It's not about team play. But team play, the basic for team play is you need communication. So how can you communicate? Either through Discord or through the console. You know, if you had, I remember the first 6 months when there was the open communication. The first thing I muted was the communication. Because you had the baby crying in the back, the mom yelling, there's somebody crunching with his chips, there was a loud beep, somebody was listening to hard rock music, so all the fancy stuff. And how would you communicate there? You need to have a nice environment, a quiet environment. So in a division, you have 3 people, they have the correct setup, even somebody has some background noise, but at least they focus on the same aim and they're not, let's say, totally weird.
Yeah, well, that's debatable, but that's not the point.
I think I know the players wanted it because I seem to recall it being discussed when they did it. Defaulting the team chat as off was a mistake, in my opinion.
Really?
Yes.
No, it's okay.
I'd rather not. I think the last time I went in an open chat in a game was with World at War, Call of Duty World at War, and after that I've turned it off because people screaming, noise, just random noises, game noises, and I don't. You have to individually mute people. I personally, if you want to listen to people, turn it on. But I prefer it as automatic. I don't want to have to faff around turning the in-game chat off.
And there were people explaining all the time why you were driving in the wrong direction or why you're a noob or whatever. So that's really annoying. I think what Wargaming could do is they need to improve the inbuilt communication wheel and the map. So, for example, give us a ping, but limited, let's say 1 or 2 in a minute or something like that, so you don't get these permanent pings. Something like that.
To be fair,
so
yeah.
Priest, you're the worst at pinging too many times, though. Don't go around saying otherwise. You watch one of your videos and it's just over here.
I think the command wheel does need work. I think it's very limited in its ability to do stuff.
Yeah.
And being like on World of Tanks console where you can ping a quadrant, I think that would help a lot. Because you know, people who do utilize that in that game utilize it to sort of give you an idea of where the last ship was last seen, or you know, I know it leaves a marker on here, but roughly where you'd want to be focused on. I think that would benefit the communication without actually having a chat, a text chat or a voice chat. You could use in-game communication. Like the text wheel, it's at the command wheel itself. It's limited. I don't think there's not a sorry, is there? There's no apology on there, is there? There's no.
Yeah. I mean,
you've got a thank you, but you don't have a sorry, and usually just people have that. I'd take that swear word one out. I think that's just. I don't even know why.
I feel bad for the Canadians.
Just to go a little off topic here, what are your guys' thoughts on the T7 economy? with all the service costs.
I don't mind it.
Fine.
Keep it.
To be honest,
It's
you can still
Keep
make
What do you
a
think
fairly
tier
decent
8's going to
profit
be
with
if this
7.
is what tier 7 is my question.
I think
You
the
can't
idea
make money at
behind
tier 7, then don't play tier 7.
I think the idea behind it is to promote the rest of the tiers, which works because if you just play tier 7s, you're going to lose money unless you have ridiculously good games
and
every
they
game.
and they end up with the same problems what you get on PC, where if you can quite often struggle to get into a game at lower tiers because everyone's playing higher tier games.
There's no point in them adding all these tiers in with all these ships for people to not play them. You know, people are already asking for T10 in Legends, but then you're leaving large chunks of the tiers very little play or unplayed. And I just think that's a waste of time and waste of materials that they've put into and the effort. Keep it as it is. I think it's competitive that way. I think it keeps people playing different tiers. I mean,
I think the
tier
tier
5
7 should be expensive to play in terms of silver. That's fine. So that the good players can still make money in tier 7, but the weaker players, they need to go back and, let's say, learn a bit about the game. But what I miss in tier 7 is additional benefit. Why would I play tier 7? Except, let's say, starters, I can play tier 7 or I enjoy a specific ship. I would like to see some, let's say, 100% bonus on commander XP or something like that if you play your tier 7. So that there's something you encourage the people to play tier 7, but at the same time you make it more expensive.
It's just, why would you play high tiers if the whole point is you need to play all the tiers? Why are you alienating high tiers instead of low tiers? It's kind of arbitrary which one at that stage, but
because then you stagnate the game. You stagnate the game. If you make high tier like easy, your game's going to stagnate. You're not going to go anywhere. New players are going to struggle to find games, which is everyone seems to think that there is a disconnect between the amount of plays that there is here and there is on PC or even versus World of Tanks. So why would you want to purposely put even a bigger hurdle in amongst the matchmaking, which is going to...
I just mean you're passing the problem down the line. It's not really...
Well, if you want... I treat tier 7 myself as almost like you have a Ferrari. Let's say you've got a Ferrari locked up in your cupboard, in your garage. You're not going to take it. You're not going to drive it every single. You're not going to take it for a drive every single day. You take it for a quick spin, have a bit of fun, have a laugh in it, and then you took it away safely, and you go about in your Peugeot. Which for me, my Peugeot probably might Atlanta.
But for me, my Bismarck sits in the harbor. I don't play it at all because it's just broken. And some other tier 7 ships like Z23 or Kangaroo, I play every day and I make money every day. So I'm not being pulled back to lower tiers. I play lower tiers because of the fun of it, and that's why I play the higher tiers. So I don't see it as a Ferrari.
I have more fun in tier 7 than I do have fun in any of the tier in the game.
Yeah, I agree.
I have the most fun in tier 3 with my Nassau.
I'm going to say tier 3 is pretty fun because I don't really care too much about it. I just play it. Tier 7, I tend to find certain ships. I like to try and play a lot of the Vanguard in T7. It doesn't really battle well, which is disappointing. But again, I'd prefer tier 6, me.
They haven't nerfed the range of the secondaries of Bismarck and Mick the Sniper. In fact, you can get your secondaries in Legends to the same range as what they are on PC. You just don't have the dispersion. So that is actually incorrect.
Just run if you can.
I mean, regarding T6, it has the best economy in the game, but I think it's too effective when it comes to mini making. It's like way too effective.
Actually,
Especially when you have a T6 ship.
It doesn't matter if you have something what you do with the money as a long-term player. I mean, a new player, you buy the new ships. But let's say the people who are in this chat now, probably they all have enough money and all the ships they want. So what do they do with the money? And you outperform with your given tier. So you're even making more money So given, for example, we shouldn't make money in tier 7, but we still do. So we have a lot of money. What do you do? What do we do with the money?
I mean, I've got 100.
We need to have something to buy for that.
I don't have the same amount of money as you do, Priest, but I'm on like 110 million.
Yeah. So what do you do?
It's nothing. It just sits there because I've kind of hit a brick wall with some of the ship grinds because some of the ship grinds are awful. I cannot stand Nuremberg. I utterly detest Gneisenau, and there's no point in me even going with the French battleship line because I've got Jean Bar. There's just no point in it.
That brings me back to that we need insignias to be purchasable for silver. That's my point. We need something to buy with silver.
The thing with that then is, Priest, that it just takes out the whole way of the commander system works, because if you have the option to buy insignias using silver, then everyone would be maxed out. Every commander would be maxed out. It just takes away the grinding thing.
Well, no,
right, okay, so what you do is in T7 you add a token. Once you've earned a token, you can cash that in for a chance to buy insignias or something.
Well, no, it's just like your free XP or your commander XP. Just have it with silver instead. Because, I mean, if you make it... Ultimately, Wargame want to make money. So if you make it so that people could have the option of buying it,
you can make it very expensive. You can make it 1 million insignia or so, whatever. Not 1 million. Let's say 10 or 100 million, whatever.
Oof.
It's just a question of the exchange rate to make it rare.
So the likes of, I don't think we'll ever get any more. I don't think we'll get any totally free tier 3 ships. The likes of Mikasa, Campbelltown, Smith, and Charleston, they are part of Wargaming's what's they're looking for, obligations to the platforms. As a free platform, as a free game, I do believe they are obligated to provide free content every so often, or content which is exclusive to the like the people who buy like Xbox Gold or PlayStation Plus. That's how I've understood it. And low tier 2 ships are examples of that. Charleston is not garbage, and neither Campbelltown.
Only
I agree. Mikasa I do not like.
Mikasa is utterly terrible. Mikasa is awful in every single respect
But
of the word.
I do like the other two. I've always enjoyed playing those ships.
Yeah, Mikasa
Why
is
did
awful.
you play them though?
For fun. Why do you play T7? For fun.
Just for fun.
It's like I actually don't mind going to T1 every so often, because that, to me, T1 is probably the most balanced.
T1's terrible.
T1's probably the most balanced out of all the tiers.
I want my Hermelin. That's all I care about. Give me my Hermelin.
Mikasa is so bad that Wargaming should pay us to play it.
I'll take the money.
If they buff Boise with more armor, it probably wouldn't be broken, because effectively what it would be, it would become a floating citadel. More so than it already is.
Giving Boise better armor, that would in a way make you
Worse.
more powerful.
No, it would make it worse, because it's got thin armor. I actually think it's got thinner armor than Atlanta in some parts.
No, in to be honest, Boise is much more easier to citadel than.
I've lost you.
But you're still doing 800,000 per game.
But that's dependent on the player's skill, though.
Which brings me back to my beginner's point, to my point from the beginning when I said there's not that OP ship, it's more the player.
So, would you say
How do you balance a player?
You put them on the scale.
You do a skill-based matchmaking and make sure they never win another game in their life.
You have many things.
You just disconnect them.
you put them in. You put them in a ranked battle.
I mean, the main issue with Boise is like when you do a max HE build with a you can bring up a fight chance to 17%, and when you shoot off 15 guns and with this fight chance of 17% with spamming out shells every 8 to 9 seconds, and that is clearly broken.
Alright, so sorry, a bit of a personal point here. OpeX, where are you actually from? Because you sound like you're from Newcastle. You sound Geordie.
I'm from Burnley, Lancashire.
Yeah, but you sound like you're from the northeast.
No, I'm actually from the northwest.
Ooh, Burnley. Ooh.
Isn't that just up the road from you, Reaper?
It is just up the road from.
Anyway,
Does that affect your skill?
Sorry, that was interjected. It's just something that was kind of curious because he sounded like he was from the northeast. He sounded like a Geordie. Right. Should we take questions from the chat if they've got any questions they want to ask us about our thoughts?
Sure.
Yeah, if you've got any questions you want to ask us on our thoughts on, keep it safe for work, please. So yeah, have you guys got anything else you want to talk about? Anything in particular?
Rowan, I'm gonna go off the application to see what the Twitch chat is saying.
Sure.
I suppose we covered pretty much everything.
Well, Roman asks why is OpeX so bad? Because he plays PlayStation.
Oh. Oh no.
I'm joking.
I don't think there's anybody currently with an 80% win rate that I know of.
Apparently,
Not with more than 10 games.
apparently, the top 0.5% of players have the threshold for that is 60%. Apparently.
God.
Seriously?
Apparently.
Smolensk is a premium.
Pick or it
I
didn't
have over
happen.
80 in season 1 of ranked, but that's it.
If you could fix one quality of life bug immediately,
Yeah, but Roman, you
what
were
would it be?
carried.
Oh, it would be armor schemes and penetration stuff. Like if we had a armor viewer, that would make things so much nicer.
Yeah, armor scheme would be nice. It gives players more of an understanding about the ship.
For me, I'll be torn between armor schemes and also getting rid of the bloody hideous signal the boosters we have at the moment and get some actually to look like naval boosters, and signal flags even, and also
They've been simplified, haven't they?
and also a convert all option, because then I think Coyote might actually use his boosters because he's got like 2,000 of them.
I would like a convert all because I've got,
While
like,
Mojo said if you could fix one QOL bug immediately, what would you like fixed?
That was what I just said.
That's what we're talking
Yeah.
about.
I mean, personally, I'd like to see Bismarck get fixed.
That's not
Me
quality of
too.
life. That's more specific.
Mike,
bottom-
Sniper, that, no. We do not need chats in here, because otherwise you're going to have people that are just going to sit there and try to type something out on the controller, not doing anything for a good minute in the game.
I'd like permanent camos to be added for all shit.
True.
I
Don't do that though.
Yeah,
I don't even see them making money off camos as they are now. So I don't see the point in having a temporary camo unless it's an option. I just think just allow me to either buy them in silver, so I've got a reason to spend money, or let me buy them permanently for doubloons.
So you know how they make money from these camos. They put them in these Santa crates and stuff, and they sell them 1,000 each crate. And 60% or 40% of these crates contain camo. So every second is a shitty camo.
If I go to my Emerald now and go to camos, for example, I've got 58 of the red camo. I've got 107 of one, 174 of another, 215 of another. I'm never going to use them. I'm never going to use them because the.
That's why I said that 50% of the purchasable containers contain shitty camos.
So
That's the
don't
scam.
make money off them. They're not making. They make more money if they sold perma camos.
No, they make more money if they sell the containers. If people hope to get that ship, but they instead get the camo.
That. But they make more money as well if they sold camos permanently. But different.
No, they
ones,
make
so
money
don't
one
sell.
time, and then that's it.
The
Yeah,
thing
but
with
still.
permanent, Go ahead, Reaper.
I was just going to say they'll still buy the containers to get all the other bits.
Yeah.
I just don't see the point in camos being added.
Yeah, but what do you put in 50% of your containers if you can't put the camos anymore because the people have the perma camos?
Silver.
What as a, let's say, low price, what would you put
Flag
in there?
boosters. Flag boosters.
Yeah,
Rather
but they
than
have,
like
that's the
one
other,
of
that's
each of
the other
basic ones.
40%.
Just have more boosters. They're more useful for the game in terms.
You
of
have 40% flag boosters, you have 40% non-permanent camos, and the remaining 20%, those are promotion orders, insignia, ships, blah, 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 blah. So
I
don't buy crates. I've rarely bought any crates. I've had them from when I bought bundles, but I don't buy crates. I've got all these camos just for playing the game.
Here's the thing, though. How long until we get coal and steel and all those other currencies that
If we
PC
even
has?
get that.
Like, I'd be surprised if we didn't. Like, it's just another thing to monetize, and they can put those in crates as well.
I mean, regarding that, in Blitz, when you're part of a fleet, you have to donate oil in order to level up your fleet rank. I think that's what they should do with clans, with coal and stuff. So the more you donate, the higher your fleet level goes.
Oil is part of oil is part of the clans on PC as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to see from the PC what they did with the premium, you know, where you build the ship, except for without the crap that came with it. But the idea itself of being able to build your premium like the campaign, but build it, I think would be a nice touch for Legend.
Well, yeah, we all know how that went out with on
yeah,
PC.
but that was the way the challenges were set, not the actual idea of having a ship that you build. That was the way the challenges were set.
The challenge was set so much so that it would make it difficult to do it for free. That was the reason why they did it.
It make it free. It wasn't. It was to make money. Purely was to make money.
Yes, exactly.
No free bit. It wasn't even. There was no way you could do it. The amount of challenges, you know, making these campaigns look fucking.
Somebody did manage to do it, but it took them. I think it was it 104 hours that took them. 104 hours of gameplay. So
I don't mean the challenges side itself. I just like the idea that you kind of building your own premium.
So
you're earning it more.
So effectively, what you're saying is change the way the campaign's laid out, rather than being a bunch of stepping stones. Have it that you get a part of a ship and you build it that way. That's essentially, from a visual point of view, that is essentially what the Puerto Rico was on PC. It is basically just a campaign.
It was supposed to be that, and when it was at Super Test, because Jingles was saying it, that it was actually less. It cost less for things. It seemed like a great idea, but then they released it and it was a big mess.
Yeah,
but I like the original idea of it in regards to it gives you kind of a bit more drive to just grind out the mission.
So, effectively, what you're saying. So, if you look at my screen at the moment, I've got the campaign board up. So, effectively, what you're saying is that rather than being like this, have Belfast in sort of a dry dock, and every time you complete a milestone, it builds a little bit more.
Yeah.
So just like a visual kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it just gives a bit more interest to that.
It actually feels like you're doing something and you're progressing towards something.
Yeah,
but at the same time, I know the amount of visual detail that would have to go into that would be a lot.
Yeah, it would be.
It would, but they've kind of already got that kind of visual detail in PC already, and it wouldn't be that hard to port that sort of over.
Well, that's the thing, is that this isn't a port. Everything's having to be done from the ground up, so they can't.
It isn't. But when you're talking about ship models and everything, that can already that detail can already be transferred over.
Yeah.
It's the gameplay itself that's the thing that's been constructed.
Tado, regarding what you said in the chat, what do you mean by button limit?
Who are you talking about there?
Tally, you said something in the chat. Well, what do I see? A lot of people want stuff here from PC, but they never think about the button limit because you can't get anything since it's limited.
I think he means like the amount of ships you can have.
No, I think it's referred to like the
Oh.
number of buttons you've got on the control pad, which
Right.
determines how much control
Oh,
you can
yeah.
actually have.
I think they did mention that it would be hard to command in multiple things in one button.
And that's why I think carriers are a yes and no option, because there's only so much you can do with the controller. And that's also why we're speculating too that Travel's Martel didn't get anything for like a heal
No,
or
they
anything.
said that it was because
But
they
it's
didn't
also
have a button.
No, but the thing is,
it's also
regarding
most
Top
faster
Martel,
time.
it's ahead of the rest of the pack.
Yeah,
That's why he didn't get the heal.
Charles
Yeah,
Martel
It's on
is
the
ahead as
spec
well.
sheet, it's overperforming.
So she's lucky she didn't get nerfed, really.
Yeah, she needs a reload buff. She needs to be able to get down to about 5 seconds. I think it's the only fair thing to do to it.
Oh god.
I don't know.
I
What
don't
do you
think
guys think they'll do for the anniversary?
probably some kind of big giveaway. I would imagine.
I'd like an event.
Yeah.
Rather than just
I
pure
think they will
giveaway.
make both. They'll have an event and some giveaway.
Maybe they'll
Like
announce
from World of Tanks.
maybe they'll announce aircraft carriers for their birthday.
What are
you
your guys?
will.
What are your guys' general thoughts on carries? Like, do you even want it to come into the game?
I want the carriers to come into the game.
I don't
I mean,
personally mind the idea. I'm not completely against it. I don't think it would fit right now.
If it's limited to one per side, I would be fine with them coming in. I think that it would make cruisers a lot more useful, especially at the higher tiers. The only problem is, again, if that you introduce carriers, you're going to have to use an AA consumable, which is already going to be a problem for most of the cruisers because they don't have a slot to put it in.
Yep.
But that's the same said on PC. On PC, they don't necessarily have a slot. Only a handful of cruisers have. Only a handful of cruisers have 5 slots. The rest have.
The thing is that every cruiser on PC has the accessibility to put on certain modules, like well, for example, the Kutuzov Tier 8 Premium Soviet cruiser. I loved my Kutuzov, but you had the option to either put an AA consumable on it, which had really good AA, or you could end up putting Hydro on. And so you just had that risk that you were doing there. So if you wanted to do something like that for, let's say, the Baltimore, change out the Hydro for an AA consumable, since you already have radar, would be something that's possible. And we've seen them do that with the Kagero now, and with like the British cruiser line.
This kind of comes to my own experience on PC at the moment. Some of you might be aware I like my aircraft carriers on PC. I think the way, if it was one CV per game, and in my own experience on PC again, as a battleship or as a cruiser, one CV is manageable. If you stick with your team, you don't go off meandering on your own. One CV per team is manageable because your anti-aircraft firepower, when it's combined, is very effective. The priority sector firing arrangement that they have is also very effective. Yes, you have a bit of a cooldown after it, but yeah, I've found myself getting completely obliterated. My aircraft is getting completely obliterated just by the priority sector or overlapping fields of anti-aircraft firepower.
I think a lot of work would be needed to be done before carriers were to be implemented.
But the flip side is it's more content for us, and that's what Montgomery Dave 88 has said there. Ultimately, CVs coming in, it is more content, and it gives more people options and more flexibility to build how they want.
It's
with right now.
Yeah, it's more content, sure, but it's the balancing that matters really.
More content doesn't always mean great game. You could they could throw everything at this, and it's just a pile of shit at the end of the day.
Like, we have Russians, Italians, all of these like European nations, the French DD line, the extra lines for the American cruisers, the Japanese destroyers, the British heavy cruisers. There's an absolute ton to still be released. Like, we could do a year and a half, 2 years of every patch being a new line almost, and be completely fine without carriers. I don't think we're pushing for more content. Like, I think that's all kind of settled, and to be swapping over for their design team to only do carriers and fill out that might not be the smartest decision if they want the other stuff, depending on how big their team is.
Yeah, if you
I'd
look
rather
at
prefer
the fact
them
of
develop
Metro
the
rework,
esports instead of carriers, because they have rank, but they have to improve that, and I don't think they have the resources to do everything. So I'd rather work them on ranked and have a
I
real
think
ranked
I
mode
think
first.
I think rather than them bringing in a new LAN every pass, they should bring in more modes and stuff, just so that you have more
No,
stuff to play and more
I,
maps.
I don't think more modes is a good idea for this because
You
it's
don't want to split the population.
yeah, it's
By
splitting
modes,
the.
what I mean is like clan battles, and they should bring all of that and stuff in first before they start releasing new lands.
I think
Uh,
completion of the current existing nations in terms of having the 3 lines that they actually have as a structure, the French need finishing off. They've said about a new nation, so we have to see what that's going to be about.
Probably Russia.
Probably going
It's
to be
the
Russia,
Russians,
but
because
again,
they always release the premiums before the lines.
yeah, but
And
it's
Phil
how they're
said
going
they'd
to
be
do it
out
because
before
a
his
lot of it
birthday.
is a lot of them are paper ships.
If
And
Russian bias, then I really don't know what the community are going to react.
but the
It'll be
wargaming
Russian biased,
isn't that the
new
Russian
ships.
company? So they, at least
Yeah.
World of Tanks, they have a huge Russian community, so they need to have the Russian ships.
They do have a big
No,
Russian following.
I
Regards to that game.
I don't think the Russian following on console is quite as big though, because as far as I'm
Yeah.
aware,
It was massive.
as far as I'm aware, Xbox and PlayStation aren't that popular in Russia. It is more PC.
I know tanks, like Xbox tanks, was they were not that popular, but they were still fairly popular. Because I remember going up against a few Russian clans, but it was more of a North American thing with tanks, and it seems like with ships, it's a very big European
And Asian.
I haven't seen that much Asian, if I'm being honest, but
Where's Poi?
oh god,
Banned.
everybody knows him.
Oh,
what are your guys' thoughts on Edinburgh having 30mm bow instead? Do you think it doesn't need to have 30mm bow, or do you think it needs
God
it?
help the battleship players whenever they try to aim at that thing.
we'll find
It
out
was
before too
designed
long.
Like that, so it's not an error in what they've done.
It wasn't. It's not designed as a. Basically, what they wanted to do, they wanted to make sure it didn't get insta destroyed because it has a high citadel.
Yeah, if you give that thing broadside.
Yeah, but I can see the Reddit threads already.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they do end up rebalancing Edinburgh maybe down to 27mm at some point in the future. Because being able to tank Iowa shots bow 1 or Nagato shots bow 1 in a cruiser is a bit
It's a bit OP.
Yeah.
That's perfectly reasonable. What you're talking about.
Minato said, what's your thoughts on the monetization models of Legends so far in terms of paid content in correlation with free content?
I'm a mix. I do think they've released a lot of premiums recently, but now they have been working on lines such as the British cruisers and so on and so forth. So I do think it's a bit of a mix. They are trying to recuperate a lot of investment into this game. That's expected. They've taken in essence a gamble by creating the game like it is, and rather than a direct port, they've done a complete creation in an individualized way, and I think they're having to pull back on that. I don't mind premiums, because they're not forced on you. You don't have to get them to complete a certain thing or do this, that, and the other. You can play the game completely for free. I do feel that always need to add content. It's one of my main gripes against Mercs was the fact that they brought all these fake tanks in, even faker than the paper tanks. A lot of it was heavily monetized, and that, to me, bad taste. But I don't think they've gone that far. I think it's an option, and it always will be an option, and I think it's a good thing. And they don't seem to mess around with the matchmaking in regards to you come up against premium ships. You're not going, well, I'm fucked now. There's a premium ship there.
It's just the player using it most of the time is what you're like, oh
Yeah.
god.
So some people know how to play the game, and they choose certain ships. Like I detest Atlantis. I hate Atlantis. Can't stand the bloody thing because
I will
people
say that
know how to play it.
I will say though, one thing I do like, but I also don't at the same time, is how the ability to get some of these higher tier premiums if you wanted them. Like you can do a campaign by only paying 2,000 gold or something for it, for the Admiralty backing. You can get something like that, and if you really wanted a ship, you can go for it. But at the same time, a lot of these new players it only takes a tier 4 to be able to get some of these challenges unlocked. And so you can have people that haven't progressed higher than tier 5 getting a tier 7 premium and have no idea how to play it too.
Yamato.
Yes.
Yeah. I think
So there's
I
upsides
think
and downsides to it.
That's more of a gameplay work than the actual ship itself.
Yes. But I think that's not a good way to put it in though.
Yeah.
Is that way a lot of people can buy straight if they want to. They don't want to grind it out. People can work towards it if they want to for basically nothing at all.
Yep.
Regarding the Yamato event, what do you guys think should Wargaming do in order to improve future events, such as like Wargaming did say they were going to implement Yamato into the game permanently later on this year.
As a grind from Amagi. That's where I think she should go.
Yeah, I think they should do that one. I think at the same time as releasing Yamato, they should release other legendary tier ships as well.
I'd like to see a selection. I would like
Yeah.
to see a selection of legendary ships to be added.
I also
Well, the thing is that there are so many of the ships, not so many. There's a good amount on PC that are tier 9 and tier 10 ships that did exist, like the Gearing, the Worcester, whatever you want to call it, the Des Moines, a bunch of those like American ones, but they're just the ones I can name off the bat. But a lot of those ships did exist, and so they want to put them in at some point. I would assume, and that's going to be really the only place would be a legend tier for them.
And
I
let's be
wouldn't be
honest,
surprised if
majority
the
of
other
the
ones
players.
are campaigns.
I think the other thing is, if they're going to bring out paper ships like Montana, Conqueror, what else is there? Kremlin, Smolensk. If they're going to bring those kind of ships to Legends, they shouldn't. They need to drop the legendary moniker, because that, to me, that's just false. Those ships, they should just call it. They should just call it T8.
Yeah, but I think
You could say
you're going to have
they should do.
exceptions, because they won't be able to completely fill certain lines of certain nations with original ships. They just don't have it.
Yeah, but
you could say legend is a myth in legend, so it doesn't have
The
to
legends
be
were supposed to be about
real.
the captains anyway.
I mean,
Yeah.
but the thing is, everyone loves the paper ships, though. That's the thing. Everyone loves the high tier paper ships.
because there's a bullshit. That's why. I mean,
not just that, they're really fun to play with as well.
Yeah. And like a lot of
so-
people like theorizing on what could have been, or if one country had kept power for long enough or had done this long enough that they would have been able to have something like this.
There was a question from somebody else. QB. So Minato again. Would you rather have premium ships that you have to purely grind for free, or would you prefer ship? I like how they do it right now. Personally, you've got the choice.
Yeah.
2,500 doubloons for a T7 premium ship or a T6 premium ship. If you've got the time to grind it, that's fine.
I think they should bring in more premium ships that you have to grind for, so then it gives you a reason to want to play the game more and stuff.
I like it.
What you can do is the 750,000. If you take that as an exchange rate for 25,000 doubloons, I'm not saying you can get doubloons for that, but you basically should be able to obtain any tier 7. Let's say if you have 750,000 global, and you just say, I want this Tirpitz, I want this Artago, I want this whatever tier 7 ship, and you can purchase that with 750k global at any time if it's in the shop, instead of buying doubloons.
And I think that will also be a hindrance too for some of the brand new players, so they can't just buy their way up to high tier. You actually have to have played a little bit to earn the XP to convert it.
Yes, hit certain tier brackets.
But again, that comes down to the whole reason why they don't like putting barriers to just buying premiumships anyway. Is because they don't want to isolate people that don't necessarily have the time to play a lot. So for those that don't, for the very casual players, for instance, you risk penalising them for that if you have to have a minimum threshold of how much you can grind. Oh, I've got a Belfast in my team.
Okay, guys, I need to go off. Thanks for the chat.
Okay, no worries. We'll catch you
Enjoy
later.
the rest of the night.
See you, man. Have a good night.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
So that's
So we've been talking for 2 hours and 16 minutes.
and we haven't killed each other yet.
Nope.
It just
I
shows
think it's been pretty good so far. It's been interesting.
Do you think people who use the outer wall glitch, what outer wall glitch you lose? You go to half engine. You go to half engine strength.
Yeah.
I mean,
really bad.
There was a bug before. It was in the fall landing. It was captured the base, and I was in the landing, and I was getting absolutely hammered by Bismarck turbines and in Atlanta, and literally all my modules were broken. As soon as I repaired, I was going 49 knots, and I had a screenshot, and I was like, well, how the hell did that happen?
Oh, that's weird.
Because I was literally zooming out from the base at 49.2 knots.
I know there's a bug with one of the modules where if you put on the propulsion mod, you end up losing speed when you reverse. For some reason, it caps your speed.
Well, I'm dead.
Is that a bug though, or is that just some weird mechanic that's backwardsly intentional?
Why should people lose health from being at the border? Because then you're affected.
It already slows them down in the border.
It comes down to the circumstance. So what if like you are forced to go to the border because there's like a couple of destroyers chasing you? You know what I mean? So there's different circumstances to it. So why should one player lose HP for going to the border when DDs are chasing him? Like I don't see the point in having that.
But I don't see why you should penalise players for being at the back balls anyway. Because if you penalise them by making them lose health, you're penalising the team because you're potentially risking taking that player out of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
What if it comes down to a 1v1 situation? Because
you got to remember, this is ultimately it's a team game. So if you're going to be penalising a player by, for instance, health, taking away his hit points, that means that player loses its effectiveness as being able to support the rest of the team.
I would think that...
Go ahead, Sarah.
Go on, Raz.
No, I was gonna say, I guess one thing that I don't agree with this idea in the first place, but I could see how it would work would be if somebody per se would hit the border. If they were full health, the max that they could lose would be, let's say, 10% of their overall or their health. And if they were lower than that, like if they were lower than 90% of their health, they couldn't lose any. But if you're full health running up against the border, not wanting to do anything, then I can understand that.
Again, Mixed Sniper, I'm not sure how it is breaking. What is it? What is it breaking to use? Why is it game breaking being sat at the border?
I wouldn't say it's game breaking. I think it's spoiling the game in terms of people camping the edges and stuff in individual games. I think maybe if you sit right at the border, within a ship's length of the border, say, or a certain distance from the border, and you sit there, you have an effect where it slows your ship, it slows your reload time, and it slows your turret traverse.
But again,
I find it hard to aim though.
Why should that happen though? What if your ship is a snapping ship?
Again,
yeah, but I mean, given over a period of time, if you sat there for a period of time, that effect comes in.
Even then,
Mm.
I
Yeah, but
don't
then again, matchmaking has an impact on that as well, because you have 5 destroyers sometime in the team, or 4 destroyers, and then you're gonna obviously have to sit back. You're not gonna rush in because you just get up to death. So you're obviously gonna
No,
sit
but
in
I
the
mean,
back.
that's why if you sit right, I mean, if you already go into the border itself, you slow down.
To me,
I mean,
slowing down is enough of a penalty as it is, because it means your effectiveness to dodge is vastly
you only
reduced.
affect it if you ram into the border.
Yeah, but if you're going against like something with a long reload, like Arizona or something, you just hit the border, the shots miss, and you have 35 seconds to remaneuver. Like, I don't know about you guys, but the first shot or two that I take when someone's hit a border, I usually miss because I can't judge their speed and distance properly.
Yep.
So there's still a problem in that regard. You're still able to dodge, but just in a different way.
You're dodging because you've been slowed against your will and against what the person's aiming at.
A Wild
You can't
Mojo
leave.
says, would you apply the same penalties if someone island hugs?
No, never, never.
I mean, Serb already has an issue with that. I mean, literally anyway.
Oh, Priest back.
I just
Yeah, exactly.
island hugging is a tactic in the game. I think pushing
yeah,
yourself right to the border and then hiding at right the extreme part, or border hugging, completely border hugging. I think that's just a bit. That is spoiling the game.
Be glad it's
I've
not on Blitz, because Blitz you can hit anything and then you'll just bounce right off of it and you can make a complete turn. So
yeah.
On Blitz you kind of get guided along the board, guided along the maps. So if you're crashing your bodies, rather than coming to a stop, it kind of gently nudges you back away.
yeah.
Do you guys
Not
think
even-
that the buff Terpis had got? Do you think Bismarck needs that buff?
Yeah.
I still I still consider the Turpits with my Atlanta sometimes.
I think
No, I think Bismarck needs to get a big buff, because literally anything Citadels, even Lightning and Fletchers have been Citadeling it.
But
That's how
if you
stupid the army is.
if you increase the armor, it increases the probability you're actually going to do a Citadel, because it means that more shells will be armed with arm.
No, we're not asking for the armor to be like buff. What we're trying to say is just to lower the Citadel, or decrease the maximum HP of the superstructure. So then, therefore, you're not eating that much paint when you're angled.
But that's also one of the downfalls of the Germans, is because you do have a gigantic superstructure compared to a lot of the other ones. You do have that risk of taking more damage for that.
That's one of the main reasons as to why the Bismarcks keep getting hit for like 10 to 15k when they're angled with the battleships, because they have such a large superstructure, and the way to counter that would be to decrease the maximum HP of the superstructure.
It's just a tricky situation with the Bismarck too.
The other thing to consider is that the gun ballistics in Legends are different because of the range reductions. So whilst people say on PC, oh, you can't sit at a Bismarck at 10 kilometers, well, because of the range reductions in Legends, that 10 kilometers from PC, from a ballistics point of view, could be, say, 8 kilometers in Legends. Because your guns can't fire at the same range.
Well, in all honesty, I'll say this too. The maps are the same size. Yes, they're a little extended on PC. The problem is that we are playing on the same distance as Tier 7 maps are, with different Tier 8 and 9 ships on a Tier 7 map. So it's automatically going to be a little bit worse.
I can say though, I spoke to Robin about penetration stuff. Ballistics are the same as in PC. They haven't changed that. I'd imagine that they've made it so the guns can't elevate the same amount, so that it's different ranges. But like different maps, you have different max ranges for ships. I don't know if they have the same on PC, but it's definitely the case here.
Trying to think what else we can talk.
I think the main issues with maps are, like, for example, you look at the most recent maps, the Atlantic and Land of Fire. So you take the Atlantic for an example, and obviously, let's be honest, the Atlantic is for T6 and T7. So the current state T7 cruiser in is absolutely horrendous. And when you add in maps like the Atlantic, where it's, let's say, it's against cruisers in a way, because it's not more of a cruiser-based map, then it just makes cruisers even more shittier. Because
I'd
you have
say
that
again,
disadvantage compared when you're using
Atlantic is pretty good for it though. There is a lot of island cover for cruisers to exploit.
I know, but then there's a lot of crossfires in as well.
Then that also goes to being a good player too, and knowing where you can get hit and where you can't.
Yeah, and
Yeah, but this is Ninja we're talking about.
Wild Mojo asks, the state of the game, are folks generally happy, or is there any big concerns we have?
I'd say it's improved compared to after the Yamato event. Improved, yeah.
Yamato, now that Yamato's gone, we can all breathe easy and go back to playing T7 or T6 and 7.
Yep.
Although
I don't
now
think there was big concerns before.
no, there wasn't really any big concerns.
A lot of people were pissed off. When you look at communities, a lot of people were pissed off about the matchmaking and just the event in general. So.
But whenever they took out the tier 4, or not tier 4, the what's it called? I'm getting shot by.
How
John Bart is really popular.
Yeah. But whenever they took out of the 4v4 matchmaking, is whenever it really screwed up everything, and then the asymmetrical matchmaking really screwed up everything too.
And then the other matchmaking also screwed up everything because you ended up getting 3 Yamatos in the game. So,
and then the John Bart campaign ended around the time after the 4v4 event came. So then all you could find in T7 games were just teams full of John Barts and Yamatos.
Yeah, it wasn't pleasant.
Yeah.
I don't know. I liked it. Again,
but like, let's look at how far it's come from April, though. Like, looking at those sort of campaigns, and I remember when the Turpitz campaign came out, that looked like the most impossible thing in the world. And now we have the Jean Bart campaign that just passed, where I don't know many people that weren't able to just complete it for free, and this one looks to be even easier in that regard. So it's come a very long way, and the game seems to be in a nice upward trend in that regard. So I'm generally happy with everything, and any concerns that I have, I'm pretty sure will just be fixed as soon as possible time.
I think if we've got nothing else,
it's true what Ash said. He said campaigns do come far too often, though. Sometimes I just want to play. That is true. Like, they should give you a break rather than just bringing in a new campaign straight after.
Well, we did have a 2-week break.
Yeah, but then if you look at it, 2 weeks is not long enough, especially if you work and stuff, because you can only invest a certain amount of time into the game.
But the good thing is,
it's nothing.
The good thing is the Jean Bart campaign and what looks like the Belfast campaign look like fairly easy again. So it's not, there isn't a huge time investment in actually being able to do them.
The Belfast being what it is, though, I think are a bit too easy.
Yeah, I still didn't really get a straight answer when I asked why did they think bringing in Belfast when she was removed from sale from PC because she was too good. What balancing things?
I didn't find her that bad in the super test.
I thought the Fiji was actually more powerful, but
I mean, not really. I mean, in a way, Belfast is arguably kind of better than the Fiji simply because you have radar and you have HE as well.
But the HE on the Fiji is just monstrous.
Minato Belfast is a premium ship, so even though you can earn her for quite a lot less doubloons, you still have to pay to obtain her. That is the point of her being a premium ship. If you do rank battles, you can get 2,000 doubloons for free if you get to rank 10 and I think rank 4.
Well, I'm at 10 and I got the 1,000, so whatever it is.
You know how I don't know what they call it in PC, but you know how you can acquire the T10 premium ship Ohio? I think they should do something similar like that in Legends.
Naval training thing.
Yeah, something like that. I do not know the exact name, but I think they should implement something similar to that.
where you reset like see that wasn't very popular on PC. That the whole idea was like why the fuck we want to regrind through everything.
I mean, you do have a point, but I mean, they couldn't make it so that you don't have to regrind anything.
But I mean, it's just something to do if you've got nothing else to do in the game and you just feel like, hey, I would like this thing for free. I don't want to spend any more money. I'll just grind through everything else since I've already done it. So why not?
Okay, Mac the Snapper just said, I don't agree with buying the hood when it was up against the Bismarck in real life.
Arizona was sunk to the bottom of the ocean. Grafspy was sunk to the bottom of the ocean. Warspite survived. Dunkirk was sunk.
Sharnosh was sunk.
Sharnosh was sunk. Gneisenau was sunk.
Bismarck was sunk eventually.
The Hipper was sunk.
Tirpitz was sunk.
Literally the first time I've heard something like that. Literally the first time.
I think that's just been a bit too.
I think that was more of a slight at you British people than anything.
Okay, so let's have a look. So Edinburgh was sunk. Lightning was sunk.
Nelson was hit by a mine.
Jervis survived.
Stopped and rebrought in.
Icarus was sunk. Was Icarus sunk? I think she was. Acasta was sunk. Queen Elizabeth.
So what you're saying is none of these British ships were very good at staying alive.
Oh, Kaiser, Koenig, and Bayern. Kaiser, Koenig, Bayern, Gneisenau, Bismarck were all sunk. Hipper was sunk.
Which ships were sunk in the in Pearl Harbor?
Arizona.
Atlanta was sunk.
Arizona was sunk. Atlanta was sunk.
Indianapolis was sunk.
Yeah.
The
So
Texas is sinking.
Why should one ship not be bought in the game simply because it was sunk in real life? That is just completely invalid.
People wanted the rematch with Bismarck. Well, people can still have the rematch with Bismarck. They can buy her as a premium ship next week if you don't want to. If you don't want to invest in the bundle, you can buy Bismarck Hood next week for I think it's either 12,500 doubloons or 15,000 doubloons. I want to say it's 12,500 based on the pricing of the Azure Lane package.
Well, don't say anything yet, or else people are going to take that out of context.
Just reading what Mick the Sniper, I think what it means by buying it means that it should have been a tech tree ship instead of a premium. Because the Bismarck is not a premium.
Tirpitz was a premium, she was sunk.
I think what it's trying to get at is it should have been part of the tech tree rather than be a purchasable ship.
But the thing is, it's a battle cruiser technically, and we don't have that line.
No, it's a it is a battle cruiser in a lot of ways. It was designed to be a fast battleship.
Yeah. And so that's the only problem is that we don't have that line, and we only have either the battleship. But yeah, Vanguard
is a fast battleship. It's a heavy battle cruiser basically.
But I don't kind of agree with the Vanguard being put in at 7 though.
Yeah, I think they should have placed another ship inside T7 because if you look at it this way, the average player so say you have an Iowa or Margi player, the average player playing in a Margi compared to the average player playing in the Vanguard, the average player in the Margi or Iowa has more of an advantage.
Well, I mean, also too is that if you look, even all the rest of the tier 7s that we have, battleship wise and even cruiser wise, all of them are either tech tree ships in the main line game, in main PC, except for the Vanguard, which is the tier 8 premium battleship.
So with Vanguard, it's not so much that she's a bad ship; it's that she's not balanced properly. She doesn't balance well with the rest of the tier 7.
Yeah,
that's the problem with her. Vanguard herself. She is fine at tier 7. She is the last battleship commissioned by the Royal Navy. She's the last battleship commissioned in the world. So she's rightful that she has a place in in the game, in my opinion.
I just don't agree with her being the tech tree. I believe that she should be in the game.
She existed.
Tier 7, but she did. She
existed, and she had a reasonably lengthy career. She was 14 in service for 14 years. So yeah, why not have her? I mean, the other option would be Lion, but Lion didn't exist. Well, she was laid down, but she was never built.
2 of the Lions were laid down, but they don't exist. They were never actually completed. whereas the Vanguard was a complete ship. It was completed, it sailed, it was a flagship at one point.
Because Hood had a displacement of more than 45,000 tons. When she was designed, she was originally designed as a battle cruiser, but they made her armor that heavy that she was basically a battleship.
Plus, Hood has 15-inch guns as well, so that's probably why.
Yeah, and she's got eight 15-inch guns, so that makes her effectively a battleship.
So the troll.
So, do you have anything else? Anything else you want to talk about?
So, just a quick question, Seb. Are we gonna do this again?
Depending.
Good question.
Do people want us to do it again? I would imagine so.
I mean, it was pretty fun and interesting, to be honest. Honestly, we did. Because look, his already.
So you're broken up a bit there, and it also I think it also helps diffuse some of the, I want to say, rivalries between particularly us lot.
No, Ninja sucks still.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm menacing his shit anyway, so.
Yeah,
I don't know about that in Chief.
No, it's fun just to poke with everybody as it is, and I don't think I hope that never goes away.
Yeah,
It's nice to see everyone's serious side and
not trying to troll each other.
they're interested in the game and stuff.
Yeah, I'll definitely get to do it again. Maybe after like the game's had its 1-year anniversary, we'll look back at maybe a year of Legends or something like that.
Yeah.
We can do. I mean, we could technically do one every patch.
Oh,
If there's nothing substantial, like if there's something like substantial, I'd say yes. But if it's just like I don't know,
a new premium ship.
Yeah, new premium ship or like a new map being introduced or like a new game mode.
New tech tree, new nation.
Yeah.
So, for example, if the say the Russians were introduced, or maybe even the Italians.
I would see the Russian cruisers being added next, if anything.
Yeah.
I would. I'd see the cruisers being added in, or the French destroyers, or what's it called, or Soviet
But I
destroyers.
think both. I think they're going to introduce French destroyers and then a nation at the same time.
Well, the problem was that on PC, the German cruisers were
French
brought in with
destroyers
them.
and French, Russian cruisers in early access. That's my guess.
I really do want to see more maps because honestly, I'm getting bored of playing the same maps again and again.
I'd like to see some variations of some maps. I mean, on PC, I know a lot of people have heard me a few times. There's a variation of North on PC called Northern Lights, and it is just the North map but with a different skin on it. And I think even
you was on about it yesterday in your stream.
Yeah, so even just like simple things like that give us little variations.
We already have nighttime on this. In that regard, so you could have night versions of maps, day versions of maps.
What about like weather systems like cyclones and stuff
That would be fun to do cyclones.
affect? Yeah,
They were
I mean,
gonna
it
do
bring
that,
more.
and they pulled it.
I mean, yeah, if they did that in ranked, it just make it more competitive.
Oh, I don't think anything would make ranked more worse than having rough seas and cheating players.
I think when they originally designed Legends, this was something that Robin mentioned, was that the original intention was in fact to have proper weather systems where your ship was moved around as a result of the weather. But when they were exploring it, the processing capacity of the PlayStation and of the Xbox was not sufficient to make the game run smoothly.
Well, with the PlayStation 5 and Xbox One X or Series X coming out, they might change their mind with that.
Well, possibly,
Yeah.
but then you still have to cater for Xbox One and PlayStation 4.
True.
Like, isn't World of Tanks bogged down by having to be 360?
I would say so.
compatible?
Yes.
That should be ending very soon, from what I believe, because they've stopped the servers already, or they're shutting the servers down.
But anyway, I think we could probably bring this now to a close.
I'm done listening to you talk, sir.
Fuck off,
I've been
twat.
nice for long enough. I've been holding in so much pent up anger at some of these teams.
Yeah.
I can do it.
I'll thank you all for joining. It was different.
Yep.
It was different not being salty in my stream, not shouting at Not hearing Reaper
Not
or
being drunk.
Coyote going ape shit at some
I
teammates.
don't know why you singled me out when Reaper's just as bad, if not worse.
I said both of you.
Yeah, I'm
I said
Shinnis in here.
I said Reaper
You're
and Coyote.
not even ranked 10 yet, mate.
Oof. Oh.
You began carried by Seb, Menacing.
I don't know about that one.
And
False.
so
Fake
yes,
news.
I'll say goodbye. Do you guys want to say goodbye as well?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Yep, thank you very much, guys. Yep,
I'll catch you.
Great talk.
Yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Bye.
yep, I'll catch you later. See you guys.
Okay. Alright. Now I can talk shit. Holy crap, that's a lot of stuff now firing at me over here.
Yep.
Yeah, Xbox Pi, not PlayStation.
Oh, I was gonna say it was nice talking to Rowan because I haven't talked to him before.
Rowan has a very deep voice, I must say.
Yeah. He seems like a really nice guy.
I thought he was Indian, but I didn't want to assume.
I thought it was kind of Asian.
Party because I hate freaking this, so I'm plugging back in.